I will take the most incriminating things that you say and put it at the beginning of the video as like a teaser.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Ah, crap my pants. Like, you kind of wake up in the morning and you got one in the oven, one hot and ready. Can God condemn you if you never even know who God was?
Bring that mic in. Tell me about that.
Talking about birth.
Yeah. What do you mean they're trying to change it?
Dude, I mean, if you think about it, like
Like
the mother's
incubation
just an
tanks?
incubator. And like you can already like fertilize an egg and a sperm.
So
And
true.
you can do that outside of the womb, and then you can like transplant it in the womb, which is like what people have been doing for the last 30 years. But yeah,
My mom is a
now
nurse. She knows all about that.
it's like the next step in, I guess, growing humans
Yeah. Then we can
would
get
be
rid of all women.
doing it in like an incubation tank. Yeah. But it's actually a pretty crazy, complicated system, so we haven't done it yet. So that says something that's kind of cool.
Good job, women.
Yeah. When you shot me the text, I was at the national cross country meet. Like we were doing a pre-meet, and I was like, man, I wonder what the podcast is doing, because we did the first episode and then it got scrapped, and then
Yeah.
I knew that there was more episodes after that, but by the time they started coming out, I was already like in full blown school.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
I didn't really have
Yeah.
time to check any of it out. So then I looked it up, and that was the moment that I remembered that you were bald, because
Okay. Yeah.
I just saw the thumbnail. I was like, he's got no hair.
Yes, sir.
Because I had completely forgot. Like I knew, but I had never seen you, so I just couldn't. I knew it happened, but I couldn't comprehend that it happened until I
Mhm.
really saw it. And that thumbnail was the moment that I saw it. And at first, like, I didn't even think I found the right person. I was like, I'm pretty sure it was called the Lindley Listen.
Yeah.
I was like, but this isn't Joe. And then I was like, oh wait, it is Joe, because that's Blake. Blake's in that thumbnail.
So
And
true.
yeah, but I haven't seen it yet. But I might have to break that rule and give it
Yeah.
a listen.
Yeah. The thumbnails go me with hair, me with no hair. I called it flesh fashion, which is really disgusting, but it's
That is
because it was, right? I think no hair is not the move at all. Then you could see as the thumbnails progress, I grow a beard, and then now we haven't gotten to the point where I shave the beard and keep the mustache.
Oh, so this is like a new iteration.
Well, yeah, the videos that are going up now were recorded like a month ago.
Okay, so there's like a month delay,
Yeah,
roughly.
because we record 3 a week, only post 2, so we
Okay.
build up.
So you get a surplus going.
Yeah.
So then you can take like a vacation. Like, I don't have to do anything this week.
So right now, this episode actually marks the ability now to get from here all the way to the end and like a week over Christmas break for college.
Wow.
For episodes, which will be really nice because since I won't be chilling with college students, I won't have people to interview, and it's gonna be way less frequent, I guess, right?
Totally.
Any interviews I do get will be like a friend or somebody from home kind of thing. I intend on going down south where my brothers are, so I should get some episodes in with them. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that guy just like bought a house, right?
Jeremiah, dude?
Yeah.
That guy.
That guy.
That one? Yeah, he bought a house
Dude,
down in Mountain Home, Idaho.
that's sick.
It is super cool.
Like he's just full on jumping off the deep end. He's living life.
Yeah, dude. He's trying to get a wife and everything too. It's crazy.
Dang.
Like he's ready to go full nuclear family, traditional dad mode.
He's ready.
He's ready, dude. Jeremiah's going hard that direction, yeah. Wow. But yeah, so he worked at Grease Monkey up here, right?
Yeah.
Super military, boyo, mechanic, whatever. One of his sergeants down in Boise was like, you should come work for us at this place called Mates. It's a military base mechanic place thing. And he was like, okay. And so now he moved down there, lived with my brother Josh for a while. Now he's bought a house.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. Good for him.
Isn't that cool, dude?
That's so cool.
Where it's like I wonder how many years away I am from that.
Yeah.
But that's chill. I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, dude, God, been doing a lot of stuff in my life.
Okay.
Kind of crazy, and my
Yeah.
priorities have shifted around a lot, especially when it comes to like the whole buying a house kind of thing. You know, it's let's just say that's definitely a later thing for me.
Okay. Okay. So
I think
what are these
it's like winning the
new
lottery.
priorities in the life of Joe?
Oh, I don't know. It's more. I think it's with me and all my brothers, where growing up, especially through high school, none of us were really following Jesus at all,
Mm.
and we had a huge emphasis on worldly things such as money and becoming a millionaire.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember me saying I'm going to be a millionaire.
I could see it. I could see it.
I can't see it. I don't think I even want it anymore. Really,
Mm.
it's not. It's not the priority anymore. I guess right. It's not. It literally isn't meaningful, in the sense that I can't take it all with me when I die. There's literally,
Sure.
if it holds no value. Yeah. If this world is to pass away, so will my house and all the money I have. So it's like it's literally there's no point.
Hmm.
So I guess the priority shift is literally, along with me and all my brothers, literally just to obey God and follow His will for us. It's pretty cool. I think Jesus states it where He's like, those who come after me and follow me will do greater things than I. Something like that. I'm definitely paraphrasing that. But it's kind of a really cool statement of like, wow, that it goes to show what God has in store for us or what He has planned for us if we follow Him.
Hmm.
Super cool.
That's neat. Yeah, this morning I was chatting with my housemate,
Hey,
and he hit me with this random question. He's like, "What drives you?"
yeah, dude.
And I was kind of like,
Purpose, bro.
"Dude, I got no clue. Why do I do anything? Like, what the
Yeah.
heck?" And I was thinking about it really, really hard. I'm like, man, why do we even get out of bed in the morning? And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that like came to mind was like, man, I just don't want to like crap my pants. Like, you kind of wake up in the morning and then you got one in the oven, one hot and ready.
That's why you're waking up.
That's kind of what gets me out of bed. I just got to take a dump. And after that, I guess I just keep going about my day.
Yeah, but like, what's the point of any of it?
That's it. I don't even know.
Well, yeah, because purpose was something I had a lot of time to seek and try and figure out. There was a long time there where I was like, I have no idea what I'm even doing in my life.
Yeah.
You know, like what's the point of any of it? I literally went into existential crisis, but that was in a moment of like, the biblical evil is real. Oh my gosh, I need a savior. That plays into my testimony. If you know that Christianese lingo, some people, I didn't realize that people didn't know what that meant, but it's, it makes sense that they wouldn't. I just grew up hearing it. So, but yeah, dude, purpose as a whole, I think is something that us young men, I think every young man goes through either sometime in high school or definitely after. Because after high school, it's like, okay, you are no longer being provided for in the sense of purpose. Your purpose in high school is given to you in the fact of do good in school.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're striving to be. It's either that or your purpose is to rebel against that. So after that, though, it's like, all right, now go do what you do. We have this great privilege in America called freedom. You can kind of choose to do whatever you want in your life. And it's like, well, what am I seeking? Am I seeking happiness or... Okay, if I'm seeking happiness, then what gives me that? Can you have happiness if there is no meaning behind it? I don't know. It's like empty pleasure, right? You know, if you enjoy your job, okay, well, why do you enjoy it?
Yeah.
What brings that happiness in that job? I enjoy playing Legos. Okay, why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just Legos.
It's just Legos, dude.
Okay,
but if I was told that, okay, all I had to do for the rest of my life was play Legos, would I continue to enjoy Legos?
Probably not.
Like, what's the purpose in me playing Legos? Is it a fruitful purpose?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Maybe that's an awful analogy. I don't know if you see where I'm trying to go with it, though. The idea is that we're all seeking purpose and we all find it in a different thing, I think. It's just, where do you find it? Or maybe some people never find it. I don't know. I feel like some people don't even open their eyes to seeking a purpose or trying to understand what their purpose is. They're in the motions of just waking up and going, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they just continue to live by their desires, I suppose, or their needs, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
people find it in dreams, maybe. I guess like what did I put my purpose in before Jesus? It was to be a millionaire. Okay. So then when you become a millionaire and I'm 40, then that's when existential crisis happens because I'm like, well, now I've fulfilled my purpose. Now what with my life?
Well, I feel like at that point, that's typically when you kind of branch into like your family. It's like once you're 40, I mean, if you're really just locked in on the money, you might not have a family. And then, you might kind of hit this this crisis of like, what? Now what? Like, I have what a lot of people would call success in the form of money, but
well, I don't know.
That's it.
What have you been thinking about it then? Like, what have since you said that you were pondering?
Oh, no, yeah, I was just like in terms of like a purpose. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, yeah. Well, your roommate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he hit me with that question.
Have you thought about
and I just
the
had
purpose?
no clue. It's kind of been like on my, it's been on the back of my mind like the entire drive over here. I've just been like,
oh, gotcha. Okay.
What the heck, you know?
Well,
like,
why are you alive right now?
My cells are just doing their thing.
Yeah.
My biology's working.
Amen to that. I hope so.
And yeah, as far as I can tell, it's still working.
Is that why though?
Is that like why I'm here?
Or is that more like how you're here?
That's kind of just like how I'm
how
here
you're
right
still
now,
conscious.
how
right
I'm
now.
still like doing this.
Okay, but why?
I don't know. Something thought I should be here, and that might be like God, or
yeah.
It's kind of interesting. It's like if it's not God, then what is it? Just chance? And that's kind of how I see God. It's like the chance of me doing this right now is just so low that there's got to be something out there, some higher thing out there that's
reasonable.
That's making this possible, because the likelihood is just so incredibly low.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
It is cool. It's a cool thought. I don't know. Yeah, the chances of anything at all. But that gets in like super deep into philosophy, which I went through, which I very much so loved throughout high school. I was never smart enough to be able to articulate any of it, but I've matured since to a degree. At least being able to explore ideas a little bit more, which is kind of fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe like find confidence in some of them, I suppose, is probably more where I'm at now. It's kind of fun, dude. It's fun. However, here's some philosophy.
Okay.
And this is biblical, I think, even though a lot of Christians go, I don't think so. It is prideful to claim to know anything. What do you think about that?
I think it makes sense. Like,
I think it makes sense.
Is that a bad thing? Is it bad to have pride? I don't think it's bad to have pride.
I think it's bad to have pride.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't have pride in what you do?
Well, you can't
have pride in your purpose?
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of the idea of you want to find joy in what you do. But pride is more arrogant than anything, I feel like. Pride is blinding to the truth that is you are nothing without God.
I feel like pride is taking ownership of what you do. Like, if you don't have pride in what you do, you just kind of it's almost like you're going through the motions.
This is down to the definition of pride then,
I guess.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. And we don't have
I don't know.
We don't have our guy.
How do I describe pride?
Like, you can be a prideful person.
Yeah. Well, here's a pride idea where it's like we could use my father as an example, where basically, and then I could use myself as an example that follows that, where my dad was prideful in his relationship with my mom, where therefore then he could never be wrong. He was a narcissist, right? And there was a blinding of pride. His own pride told him that he couldn't be wrong because he was always right, I guess, right? So there's a pride in that, where then I saw that, divorce happened, I'm growing up with that, going, okay, I see what my dad did, that's super wrong, I'm not going to be like that. And then I had my own built up pride in that I couldn't be like him because I knew about him. So then in my relationship with, I guess I won't say her name, you remember her a little bit probably.
Oh, that chick, yeah.
Yeah. I became like my father because I was too prideful in the thought that I couldn't be like my dad. Therefore, then I became my dad, and I didn't even see it because pride is blinding. So it's like there's a I guess my definition of pride is a false narrative and having a confidence in falsehood.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like if you don't take pride in anything, though, how are you ever going to realize that you're wrong? Because if you're not taking ownership of anything, then it's almost like,
Yeah. See, that's the difference there, because ownership is absolutely phenomenal. Taking responsibility of your actions. I guess mine was more of a my I had so much pride that I couldn't take responsibility for my actions.
yeah, I mean, definitely, like, I think everything to an extent has to be in moderation. Too much of anything is can't be good. Can't be good.
Yeah, it's just self-boasting. Is that what pride is?
I mean, I think it can be.
Because I think you can take enjoyment and joy in what you do, and you can feel proud of it, I guess. I don't know. Let's look up the definition of pride.
I think that's a good. Let's go back. Let's go to there. Let's start with that.
I love talking on my butt, dude. It's so fun. Pride definition. A feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements. The achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. Consciousness of one's own dignity. Interesting. Like, for example, he swallowed his pride and asked for help. I think pride is usually...
I guess in that connotation.
Yeah.
Like swallowing your pride.
To humble yourself.
Yeah.
I guess that's the whole idea, is to humble yourself. It is prideful to claim to know something, which was my initial claim.
Yeah, that's how we got here.
Or then, if you claim to know something, how confident can you be in that? Can you know anything? Philosophically speaking, you can't know. The only thing you can be sure of, if even, is your own consciousness.
It's a pretty crazy thought.
Yeah, dude.
You ever think about your consciousness?
I do. It's so strange. Like, where do my thoughts... You don't think about the words that come before your thought. They just appear.
You don't think about the word. Yeah. But when you say a word, you sometimes have to think about it.
Yeah.
Like, you got to think about what you say, but you don't have to think about what you say in your head.
Right. The thoughts are just kind of happening. They're not really something that... You're not thinking about what you're going to be thinking about.
No.
Your thoughts are just what you're
but
thinking.
You can control what you think about.
Yeah. Isn't it cool?
It's
like, where does the next word come from?
And then you get into like languages too. Like bilingual people, like what do they think in?
I know, I love asking that. Somebody who knows
It's such a cool idea. Like,
yeah. And then supposedly some people don't actually have the internal monologue. They think in feeling or colors or something like that. Imagery.
Yeah, like before language. Like cavemen just
yeah.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Ah. Like,
I didn't even think about
that. Are they just
that.
thinking in grunts?
Yeah, what are they thinking? Oh.
Like, or maybe just images. Like they just think in images. But that would be crazy because if you're thinking in images, can you even still see? Because you can like hear multiple things at once. You can hear the voice in your head and you can hear what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah.
But like seeing, like if your mental voice in your head was visual.
Well, here's a really cool idea. Yeah, if it was visual, I mean, yeah, it's how you perceive the world. If we lacked a sense, we would have no comprehension of that sense.
Which is crazy.
The same way you can't describe a color to somebody, the same way, here's like a really cool thing. So when we say that somebody's blind, we usually think of it as if we were closing our eyes, right? You got that blackness, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's not how it is.
Like no one really has that. It's pretty rare.
No, what it is you close one eye and see how there's no blackness there. It's just gone. It's literally nothing. Your brain just turns it off.
Oh, what the heck? Wait.
It's like there is the absence of anything. Like, it's not just black like it is when you close both of your eyes. Because when you close both of your eyes, you're still seeing. You're just seeing the inside of your eyelids, right? You can't turn off your eye. But the way you do it is close one eye. There is now nothing over here. So when somebody's blind, there's no blackness. They literally see nothing.
They don't even know what blackness is.
Vision is not.
Yeah.
It's just gone. Like, there is no Like, then how do they sense? No idea. We are unable to fathom.
What the heck?
The same way they would be unable to fathom what it means to see something. They would have
Yeah.
no comprehension of that whatsoever.
So do you think they probably can't dream either? Like they just
They would
have
be able
nothing,
to dream, but
but
they'd
what
be
are
able
their dreams?
audio.
Wow.
They'd dream audio or whatever it be, whatever scent, touch. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the whole perception of the world would be completely different. Which then that gets into like dimensional beings and stuff like that, where it's like from a fourth dimension you can understand a third, second, and first dimension, right? But you
Yeah.
can't understand a fifth.
Yeah.
Or like a first dimension can't understand a second dimension, but a second dimension can understand a first dimension.
Mhm.
And it's like
Yep.
if you have one sense, you can understand. I mean, if you have we have how many? We have 6 senses, right? Something like that.
We got
Smell,
sight, smell, hearing, taste,
touch.
But then you got like these weird senses. Like you got your sense like of where your body is in space too. Like I can close my eyes and I can like know where my foot is.
Yeah.
And you got like you can sense the inside of your body too.
Mm-hmm.
You got all kinds of senses. It's kind of crazy.
It's cool, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're missing one, like imagine if you didn't have smell. There could be things going on around us, which there are. There's even like light waves, right, that we don't see.
Yeah, we can only see
there's
like,
colors.
that much of it.
I'm assuming there would be colors beyond the visible light spectrum. It's just because we see the entire world through that visible light spectrum because that's the only thing that we can comprehend. Imagine seeing a new color.
What do you think your body would like if you just saw a new color? Like that you had never seen? Do you think it would just like your brain would just freak out?
Well, it's not just that.
Would it think it's like the prettiest thing in the world?
I don't think it's like your body can just see a new color. It's the reason why we're limited to the colors that we have is because your body can't see other colors. Not that they don't
I mean,
exist.
not everybody sees the same colors though. Like
How do you-
it's all a spectrum. Like everybody can see like not everybody's hardwired on the exact like same wavelengths of light. Like it's not down to the like you're at say I don't know like 350 nanometer light, which like what that's
Are you saying like how blue eyes see lighter? Like they have
kind
night
of
vision.
kind of like
brown eyes?
everything's a little different. Like there's all these little factors that go into
Okay.
play, and you'd like to think that everybody's the same, and it's either there or it's not. But some eyes have to be more sensitive than others because you get like insects and whatnot. Insects can see into like
for sure.
the ultraviolet and the what's the opposite side? Ultraviolet and then you have red.
I don't know. You have red. You have the red side, blue side, red side.
Man,
In
I can't believe I'm
between
blanking
green.
on that. But yeah, like everybody kind of sees the same colors for the most part in the middle because those are the main ones. But when you get to the very edge of the spectrum of visible light, I think there's a little bit of variation.
Oh,
Like some people can
interesting. That makes
see
sense.
more shades of ultraviolet light than others.
Whoa.
So like you can take a light bulb,
Mhm.
like you can make a source of light and you can make it so it's illuminating ultraviolet light. And some people will
I may
be
have
able to
screwed
see
up.
it infrared. That's what bugs can see. But when you get to the very edges of that on what's considered like visible light, people stop seeing visible light at different points. Like it's not
Yeah, that makes sense.
everybody's uniform.
That's
so
crazy.
there are colors that some people physically like can see and others can't. Like
I
it's
mean-
not huge, but it's there,
Then there's colorblind people.
which is also crazy.
Yeah, we can make fun of Harrison when we're at the camping trip because he literally can't comprehend that color. Then that
No,
we
yeah.
can see.
Yeah.
He's literally missing that.
But the thing is, like,
You can't explain it to him.
are we even comprehending the same colors right now? Like,
Yeah.
who's to say that we're not just seeing the world completely differently from each other?
Right.
And we have just assigned the same names to the same
Mhm.
stuff, and we just interpret it 100% differently. And there's no test that has been invented yet that can detect the fact that we don't see it the same.
Well, right. The argument against that is usually like, well, we associate certain colors with emotions, but we can see through different cultures and stuff throughout the world that we associate the same colors with different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, people literally then get a different emotional response to that color according to the culture and what you grew up associating it with.
Yeah.
So it's like you literally, the same way that I can't prove that I'm even here right now, the same way that you can't prove that you're seeing the same colors that I am. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's so cool, dude.
And we just accept that and we just go on with life because you can't think about it too hard because then you question everything and then then you're lost.
I love my color palette.
Dude, colors are sick.
Well, here's an argument against it maybe. If you stick people in a white room, would white and black still be the same for everybody? Probably, because that's not really a color. It's more of a bright and a dark.
Well, yeah, because
Absence
color
of light, too much light.
Yeah.
Right.
color blind people they'll see different shades, like just like a black and white image on your phone. Like there's darker and there's lighter colors, and it's kind of on a
Yeah. I guess brighter and darker wouldn't necessarily be different for people.
I'm
It would
sure
just
there's
be the shade itself.
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sure you could make a rainbow that has all the same like intensities of light. Like they're all kind of the same brightness.
Like all neon.
And I'm sure you could like make a rainbow that looked just solid gray in black and white. But
Cool, dude.
yeah.
I love the mind. It's so confusing. Yeah, you can't know anything. It's possible.
Oh, I heard a absolute mind melting thing the other day about it was something about vision, but I don't know if it's gonna come back.
There's like a blind spot. I know that.
Yeah.
Like you move like a pencil or something like that to a specific spot and you'll see it disappear, the tip of it. You got a little blind spot in your eye, something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of those little eye tricks.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
It's interesting having visual, like our eyes are our primary sense. I guess that makes sense in the sense of it's important to be able to navigate a 3D world. I don't know how you do that without eyes.
Echolocation, dude. Evolve
So-
echolocation. Turn into bats.
Like, what is okay. Because they would have to have some sort of comprehension of space around them. So then when the sound bounces back, they'd be able to... Like, in my mind, I would imagine that as developing some sort of visual of the place around them, but that's not how it would be. They would just have to know... They would have to have, like, a feeling barrier where they know where they would feel something here, rather than seeing a wall in their head, being like, that's a wall.
Well, if you think about it,
They wouldn't see the wall.
like what we're
right?
seeing, we're just seeing like waves of light that just get bounced off of everything and our eye picks them up. Would bouncing sound off of stuff be any different? Like they're just waves, and
It's all waves.
it's all just little electrical neurons and whatnot just firing off in your brain, coming up with these images.
Yeah.
I don't see why you're like, if you solely relied on echolocation, why you couldn't almost see with your ears.
Yeah. I mean, it would just be in a different way, right?
Yeah. I mean,
I
we'll
don't
never know, but I kind of think of LiDAR. Like, you know, when you see the LiDAR images on like a electric car, and it's like how it's sensing the obstacles around it with the LiDAR technology.
Yeah.
I kind of imagine that's what like echolocation's got to be like to experience.
Yeah. I could see it.
I don't know.
I don't think I could see it. I mean, I literally can't see it, but... Okay, I want to tackle you more on the purpose idea, because that's fun.
Okay, yeah.
Because that, like, plagued my life for a long time. Okay. What do you think you could put your purpose in? What does that even mean to you?
Like, what could I put it in?
Do you need purpose, first of all?
I mean, you've got to have something. Like
Like
something
what?
has to motivate you,
Mm.
or else,
Is that what purpose is then? It's a motivator?
yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, why does any? Okay, this is kind of interesting.
Okay.
So you were tying your purpose like back to God, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Do animals believe in God? Why do animals live? What's their purpose?
Well, the Bible talks about that. It does say that all of creation cries out to God.
Interesting.
I don't think animals sin.
So
Now, like, I don't think the Bible necessarily like tackles that directly. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't think they sin. But it describes. I think a lot of Christians like to say animals don't have souls. I don't think the Bible says that. The Bible also doesn't say that they do. It does say that he breathed life into all of them, along with us. You know, and if we believe we have a soul, then is that not from God? It's like he made Adam and then he breathed life into him. So it's like there would be no life then without God, right? I guess. So I don't know, animals, as far as I'm concerned, if God's name is Yahweh, it derives from breathing,
Yeah.
right? So animals breathe also. So are they not crying out his name? I don't know. I don't know. What was the question? I don't know if I
Can
answered.
animals have a purpose?
Can they have a purpose? Their purpose is not. I don't know. But their purpose not just to be to. It all ultimately comes back to the glory of God. It's like, why did God create? Because he wanted to. Because for the purpose of his glory, right? So animals then would probably serve a purpose in the sense of, what is earth? It's a garden of God's creation, and he made us to tend it and to be his companions in that, right? So therefore then, if the earth is a garden, we need things to garden. So what is their purpose? Purpose to give us, I don't know, labor pretty much, probably, I guess.
So then, in a sense, our
I'm
purpose
talking
is
on
to
my
take
butt,
is to take care of
his creation.
his creation.
Yeah, we have
also.
been given dominion and stewardship over his creation.
Yeah, and I guess how
Yeah.
you do that might kind of tie back into your purpose in a more like tangible, physical.
Well, okay. Well, that gets back to then this world is fallen because sin entered it, right? Which separates us from God and that intended purpose. So basically, now our purpose is still to steward and to tend to his world. However, this world will die because death has entered it, because the wages of sin is death, right? So therefore, then this world's going to die along with everything in it, including us, and we are called to take care of it in the sense of not to destroy it, I suppose, unneedingly. You know, I don't think we're called to like slaughter a million animals just cause, but we also need food, and the Lord tells us that we can eat them. You know, we need food. He will provide them for us to have food. I'm, as far as I'm concerned, their purpose is to serve us in that way. Yeah,
That's fair.
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what an animal's purpose is. I don't know if
'cause,
they
like,
have.
animals have a will to live. Like an animal.
They
This is
have
actually
instinct.
This is kind of interesting.
Okay.
This is kind of a tangent, but I've got some friends who are in the psychology department at school, and they do research on rats, with like in regards to stuff like depression and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
And they'll make like mutations, and they'll track like genetic differences in these rats, and
cool.
they're trying to like track how they respond to different like drugs and all these different variables, but how they test how effective these different variables are in the depression level of rats is they essentially just throw them in a tank of water and they'll swim until they just give up. And the point at which they give up is how we quantify how much a rat values its life.
Whoa.
So rats that are less
yeah.
depressed will swim for longer than rats that are more depressed because they value their life less because they're depressed rats. And I just found that I find this so interesting because there's a point at which a rat will give up.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's not it's not the same.
Right.
So
it's
like
according to their situation, their mental health, even.
Yeah.
Their
Like
emotional. Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, and something that's not human. Like
Yeah. Right. Huh.
I don't know. I don't know why I made that jump, but it's something that's I find
cool.
really interesting.
I think animals and the purpose they serve, it's probably just like everything else. Most of it is a gift to us.
Yeah.
You know, it's I don't think an animal serves the kingdom of God as though a human does. God does not hold animals to the same regard as we, because we are made in his image. We are made to be in a relationship with him like that, right? Where animals aren't. So their purpose would simply be to just, I don't know. It's as simple as
their
everything
purpose
else.
just to die and provide for us? Because they don't want to die. Animals don't want to die.
I don't think anything
Their
wants
purpose
to die.
is to live.
Do you want to die?
Not
You're gonna
really.
die. But that's not the animal's fault. That's our fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If an animal kills us, does that mean that the animal didn't serve its purpose? Because if the animal's purpose is to
I don't know if
provide
they're-
us, like,
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I don't think it would be every single animal's purpose to serve us necessarily. I don't know if that makes sense. I think it's literally just. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know, dude.
yeah,
If I had to guess, it's simply just to bring glory to God in the way that it shows His creation to us and be like how complex everything is. I'm marking this with my hand, and you can see it in that creation. I think that's probably it. Why does a little scallop or shrimp live in some puddle in the middle of Boise?
who
It's
knows?
like the one. It's like some. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's so
What would
much
be the
life
purpose?
out there.
But to make a claim that if they don't serve a specific purpose that is revealed to us, or they go against, like, I don't believe they diminish the love of God. I guess their existence or their will to live, yet they die. I don't believe that goes against the love that is who God is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I made some jumps. Please poke holes in my argument. But ultimately, it comes down to I don't know. So I mean, I don't know what argument.
Who knows?
Really
Yeah. Who knows what's
presenting.
going on in the mind of a animal? Maybe they're thinking the same thing. They're just like
Personally,
they're trying to figure it out for themselves.
Personally, I do think. Now, this isn't scriptural. Like, this is just me talking on my butt. I do personally believe that they are in tune with God to a degree that we don't understand.
Hmm.
I do believe they're following the will of God to a degree. The same way we would be able to. Like, I don't think they are like. I'm assuming they have free will to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a rat can choose when he's like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm out.
Yeah.
They don't actually drown the rats, by the way. They wear little like raft floaty systems, so they give up and they stop swimming, but they still float.
But like,
And,
here's an example
Yeah,
of.
they don't actually die.
Let's say like a lion. That's a good. Yeah, that's good. Okay. let's say a lion mauls some guy to death, right?
Yeah.
I do believe that man's number or days are numbered by God, and you will die and only die when he's like, yeah, your time's up, right? So therefore, a lion goes and eats some guy. As far as I'm concerned, that lion is fulfilling what God's doing, because God's not just gonna be like, evaporate, like your time's
Be
over.
gone.
It's like he uses his world that he created to fulfill that, right? All right, you're gonna die today. Well, there's a lion right here. Lion, go kill him. Okay, there you go. The lion's hungry.
So then, I guess kind of going along those lines, how does that tie in with like fate? Like if everything's predetermined.
I didn't say everything is predetermined.
Well,
That's a whole different thing.
If that dude's dying and the lion's gonna get him, and God told that lion to do that because God said that it was that person's time.
Yeah. I mean, their death. Do you have control over your death?
Do you? I don't know.
I don't. Do you? Every time you get in your car, bro, do you have control over your death?
Dude, I actually, you know when you're like, you ever get the need for speed when you're in a car?
Yeah, dude. Sure.
Dude, I was driving here
No
and
shot.
I was going down like Highway
Lancaster.
53 or whatever, and there was this dude in front of me driving slow, and there's not a lot of options for passing, and then I saw one,
Yeah.
and I like floored it, and I saw another car come around the corner. It's just like a straightaway, and we're just like, I'm in his lane, and we're just driving at each other. We're both probably going 60 or 70 miles per hour,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, for a second, I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah, you're
We
dead.
could impact
Yeah.
at a combined speed of like 130, 140 miles per hour, and that's boom, game over.
Yeah.
And I just like looked that in the eye. I don't know that happened on the way here, and I was just like, well, that's crazy.
I don't think you have control over when you die. I think
So then,
God
do
will
you have
take-
control over anything else then?
yeah, I think you have control of how you live.
But you don't have control over how you die.
No, I don't think any human has ever had control over how they die or when they die. In fact, that's a
What about
big
suicide?
pursuit of. Oh well, suicide's a big one. Yeah, I actually question that a lot, because I don't think the Bible really tackles it directly.
Because they say it's a
I know
sin in
what
the Bible,
Catholics,
right? They say that suicide's a sin.
well, the Catholics say it's a mortal sin, but I'm assuming it's a sin. I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know about suicide. I've done very little research. My friend, my man who's normally here, his best friend killed himself about a year ago, so he'd be much more qualified to answer that. I really don't know, because I know I've said things and he's like, "No, you're wrong." So I don't know, dude. I know the Catholics believe it's a mortal sin, which is not scriptural to my knowledge or understanding, which means that it's an unforgivable sin.
Yeah. It's like the final sin.
Kind of like the whole point is that you can be forgiven, though.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
So if.
But I've also heard testimonies of suicide where they get stopped.
Sure.
They don't actually go through with it.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people point towards divine intervention, maybe. So it's like, okay, so why did God stop those people and not the other people? I don't know. All to his purpose. That's just back to the question of why is there evil in the world? Okay. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Besides, I don't know if suicide's even taking control of your own death, really. Like, then after you die, what do you do?
What do you mean after you die? You're
after
dead.
You die.
You're dead. That's the whole point.
That's it?
Yeah.
Well, then there's no meaning.
Lights out.
Okay, well, back to purpose. Then, if you die and it's just lights out, you're just like the same way a blind person has no concept of vision, it's nothing, right? Then what's the point
of life?
Yeah,
just making the most of it, living, helping others to live better.
You think that's fulfilling?
Maybe I think so. I mean, I feel like it would be a lot more fulfilling than being an asshole your whole life.
So true.
But
what makes an asshole?
Morals. Where do morals come from?
I'm sure you've heard that whole argument. Maybe not.
Huh?
Have you heard like the subjective or objective morality kind of argument for Christianity kind of thing?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It kind of maybe sort of kind of.
Well, morals. Okay, so what determines something as good and bad, good and evil?
I think it's within the person.
So subjective.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I go and murder your whole family.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
It's messed up, man.
Is it? But in my culture, it's actually a great blessing.
Yeah. But for mine, we have different moral compasses.
Great honor. I respect you so much. I'm gonna go kill your whole family. It's like it's normal back over there. The idea is basically you can't say anybody else is doing something wrong unless you believe in an objective morality. And objective morality comes from something that is above us. Right? So if God then is above us, he determines what is good and bad. Therefore, then we have something that we can actually call somebody out on and say, that's wrong. Otherwise, there really is no basis other than your personal feelings, which if you're offended, too bad. I don't care. I'm still going to kill your family. It's like, I don't know. It's like, is that really wrong? Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, if there is no objective morality, then it truly is Darwin award, like survival of the fittest, monkey kill monkey. And it's just stronger monkey win, like, and then you give into your pleasures until you cease to exist. It's like, okay, well, then what? Then the volcano happens and your legacy's gone and nobody remembers you and there was no point in your existence whatsoever.
Well, this is kind of, I guess, there is something kind of interesting. Like if you think back a couple generations, you're like, what did your great grandfather do? Like, what even was his name? Do you even know your great? I don't either.
Nah, dude.
Like, that's crazy.
Nah, he's gone into oblivion.
Like, think about how fast that is. Like, that was like, he probably lived less than 100 years ago, and you don't even know anything about him, and you are his direct bloodline.
Right,
like,
right, dude,
you are all that's left of this man, and you have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of puts into perspective, like, how small, like, does anything really even matter?
Even, like, the big no-no German, himself, There's been many figures like him in history, and yet he's just the most recent one.
Did you say the no German?
The no Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I gotta censor myself for YouTube.
Oh, I got you.
Isn't that awful?
The no
Okay.
German.
The
Does that
no-no
actually
German.
does that actually get censored?
I think he can. It kind of depends on how you talk about him.
Have you noticed anything like on the
I'm
internet in terms of like censorship of
There's
like,
an
are there
obscene amount of
certain
censorship.
things that if you say something in a video, they're just gonna like the algorithm's gonna pick that up and it's gonna secretly like not put it out in certain places?
I have not personally been affected by that, but my channel where I actually post videos on, I stay pretty non-controversial.
Yeah.
And this podcast so far is small enough that it has nothing like that going on, nor
Yeah.
does it make any money. So it's not like
Yeah.
I'm being demonetized or anything.
Yeah.
So I haven't personally noticed any of that yet.
Okay.
I'm assuming eventually I will be.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Because I found that pretty interesting. Because
It is interesting.
you have like you can control so much with, I mean, everything's online,
Mm-hmm.
and you got, I mean, Google owns so much of everything,
Yeah.
and like you can really kind of pick and choose what people get to know and what people don't get to know as Google.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're just kind of like, yeah, they're probably doing the right thing. Like, but what's the right thing?
I mean,
like,
I don't trust them.
morals. Like, who says that Google has the same morals that we do?
Yeah, dude, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But unless you have an objective morality, you can't tell them that they're wrong.
Crazy
I
stuff.
mean, I guess you could tell them that you're wrong, but in whose power? Your own? What power do you have, dude?
Not much yet. Working on that.
Yeah, right.
It's like, how much Rise of Kingdoms? How much power do you have? I
Yeah, I
have
don't know.
50,000 power.
Like, I think we talked about it probably the first episode, which I haven't talked about this in a while. But like truth, like I believe there to be one reality, one truth, you know, and that comes from my belief of like there's one objective everything. Where, you know, a lot of people, especially in today's America, it's truth is subjective to yourself, and you get to choose what is true, kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like that gets pretty like. Yeah, you have to
There's no
define
basis of
some
anything.
like.
Yeah.
Concrete truth. If you don't have, you got to draw the line somewhere.
I agree.
Yeah.
But if
you
everybody
you don't,
disagrees
yeah.
on the line, it's like, well, the line shouldn't be able to be moved. It should be objective. It should be set in place by something above my own perception of reality, which is very skewed and tiny, right? Yeah. I don't know. It's fun, dude. It's a fun thought. As far as I'm concerned, I am glad that things are not subjective. It brings me a lot of ease of my own perception of the world. It's definitely comforting. It's more comforting than it is to think that everything is subjective. Because if everything's subjective, then it's up to me to determine what everything even is and why it is. It's like I don't want to.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not qualified to do that.
It's way too many thoughts.
I just kind of showed up here through my mom somehow. Yeah.
Pop. Boom.
But yeah, no legacy. So if your legacy doesn't stay, then what's the meaning of anything? Yeah, you're right. It's better to be an asshole, but what's an asshole?
Just comes back to the morals.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I don't know. Whether it's
Although I think there was, I forget. I have seen this is interesting.
okay.
This was on the back of my mind when we first kind of got down this role of like what's good and what's bad, and is there a reason to be good over bad? There's some sort of trend in everything. It's if you choose to be nice, you have a higher likelihood of success in everything. There have been these experiments and like simulations where you model different like
behavior
populations of organisms and whatnot, and the nice organisms always seem to come out on top. I think it's like
interesting.
Are you familiar with the Veritasium videos?
Yeah.
I think he did a video on this, and it was like the idea was that in all these simulations of different populations, the nice guys would always win. And it was like that has nothing to do with anyone's morals. It's just like a law of nature.
Mm.
The nice always seems to come out on top for some reason.
Well, what determines nice?
Whatever, it's nothing. It's just what happens
Mm.
in these simulations that they ran.
So you're saying probably nice in the sense of they're sharing resources, they're helping each other out.
Yeah, like they're not killing each other.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what is the defining nature of being like winning? It's because you could like look at the deer population versus the cougar population, and it's like neither of them are losing, but the deer have so many more.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think it would come down to being like a nice deer versus like an evil deer. Like,
Gotcha.
I don't know
Okay,
what the
yeah.
difference between those two would be in that particular example, but like
Yeah.
if you have a patch of grass
Mm.
and you're a deer and you're munching on that stuff, and you see some more deer roll up,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to munch on your grass, and you're like, nah, this is my grass, and you like run them out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of being a bad deer, and the good deer would share its grass with the rest.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
for me, when I hear that, I don't see it as a taking God out of it. For me, that makes more sense in the sense of how it's been designed.
yeah,
Because that works well for humans as well. When humans don't like other humans, they kick them out. And when
Mhm.
you're alone, you're dead, dude. Like, you're not going to survive out in the nature. We are built to be, like, we are relational beings, right? We
Yeah.
need each other kind of thing. So it makes sense then through needing each other, of course, being nice or being enjoyable to be around would benefit you.
Yeah.
The same way then, I don't know. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool.
Kind of
It's cool that it has that connection. So like you can reinforce it with
Yeah.
the idea that God's kind of making that foundation, but at the same time, it also kind of shows that you can essentially look at it in without looking at the God side of it, and still see a reason that good is better than evil.
Right.
Just-
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah,
Neat to
that is
see.
neat.
Yeah.
Here's another philosophical idea for you. Nope, it's gone. Okay, well, I'll
Oh.
think of it.
It'll come back. It'll
It'll
come back.
Whatever. The Okay, yeah, it's gone again.
Oh, it came back for another half second. That's a bummer.
It felt like
Hate it when that happens.
It felt like it. There was something going on.
Some
Okay.
neurons were firing.
Well, let me find a different way to go then. That was gonna be like really cool. I think. What were we talking? Let's
we were
try and
talking
find it.
about like good and we were talking about good and bad,
good and bad,
and that
morals.
the
God.
morals can be objective versus subjective, and you think that God is the overarching, like he puts out what is objectively moral. And I was saying that there was that example where you have like if you simulate populations,
yeah.
the good ones always seem to do better than the bad or evil ones. And the fact that happens and that you can see that happen without putting like a God into the equation is kind of
Yeah.
cool, because you can strengthen it with God, because that can be like, oh cool, God's the reason that happens. Or you can be like, it just happens because
Right.
it happens, and you don't need a reason because it's just the way it is.
I don't remember what I was gonna say, but I have another thing now.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Well, like it goes on then in this creation. Let's say God did create everything. It's really cool to look around, even in a secular standpoint, and to see how the world around us reflects us. Whether it be like rivers looking like veins, kind of thing, or even looking out to outer space. There's these solar systems or nebulas or whatever they're called. I don't know. They perfectly form this like human looking eye, right? And it's like cool how maybe that's just like
That is
the way it
interesting.
is, but there's a design that has been set forth and how it all
Yeah.
reflects us.
Hmm.
I think it's so cool. Or maybe how we reflect it. I don't know. Either way,
I've
it's
never
so cool.
thought of that, but that is interesting.
This this world has been perfectly tailored to us.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, is
Like,
it a chance thing? I guess
The fact that we
the
just
way you would
have
explain
this,
that.
like, what is water? The fact that we have water, like,
Yeah.
we need water,
Yeah.
and like we just drink this stuff, like we just
Well, you know about like the 20 something constants in the universe where if like it was mathematically different at all, it would literally we would all cease to exist.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah. And it's like I want to say it's 21 of them. Could be maybe
Whatever,
it's like
whatever the
25.
constant number is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of them.
yeah,
And if they were like 0.000 to the 10th million, 1
Mhm.
degree off, whatever, it's
Yeah.
like we would all cease to exist.
it's
And
crazy.
it's
Like
that
the
points
balance.
to a creator of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the Bible talks about how I'm definitely gonna be misquoting stuff. Let me just talk out of my butt. Let me
Okay.
not put that on the Bible's.
Talk out of
whatever.
your butt. Do it.
It talks about I think how basically we are to be seeing his like handiwork, his signature on creation, if you
Mhm.
will. It's kind of cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, dude.
Stuff's cool.
Stuff is cool.
Yeah. Do you think I've thought about this a couple times?
Okay.
So, like, we're thinking about like us. We're people, but then we're like made of all these different parts. We're made of all these organelles and organs, and those organs are made. We're people that are made up of like parts, and those parts have organs, and those organs are made up of organelles, and then you get cells.
Right.
And you just keep breaking it down further and further and further until you get to atoms, right?
You can keep
Have
going
you-
smaller than that, I think.
Yeah, you can get into like the particles that make up the atom.
Sure.
The
For the
muons
basis of
and-
the argument,
yeah.
atoms. Okay.
But you get down to these particles, and we like model particles as like little circles, right? Do you ever think about the thought that maybe like the Earth is just a particle, and we're just part of a bigger system?
Yeah.
Like, what if
Sure. Yeah.
the entire universe is just like a single atom,
Right.
and we're just like a piece of something in like
it's far bigger.
that's far bigger, and we don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
You ever think about that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Like,
That or like
and
the Matrix
whatever-
or whatever it be.
whatever we're doing,
Yeah.
like we don't know like exactly why we're doing it, but
Mm-mm.
we need to do what we do for this much larger potential being to exist.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know if you could, like, who knows? Maybe it's like that fourth dimension kind of thing.
yeah,
like,
dude.
We just have no clue that we're a part of a fourth dimensional being because we can't comprehend the fourth dimension.
Well, I believe in the spiritual realm with demons and angels and stuff. So that goes into fourth dimension potentially, if that's what we're calling it, I guess. I don't know if that's like what that is, or if that's like where they are or not. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it'd be the same way a two-dimensional being we could have on our table, and they'd be stuck on the paper. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
like
saying?
in the box, and then
Yeah,
we're
right.
just like,
But like
just
we're
get
able to
out.
like look into the box,
Yeah.
where the fourth dimensional being would be able to look into here
Mm-hmm.
and be able to manipulate it,
Yeah, in some incomprehensible
and
way.
we'd have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that would be trippy.
But like the whole sixth sense. No, okay, it is five senses then, because the sixth sense is used as a like a magical thing, like a like when somebody's looking at you, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that?
Do you think that's real?
Yeah,
Is it?
I
Because
think
I feel like
happens
it
to me
always
all the time.
happens, but
I'll be sitting there minding my own business and no reason to look up other than a feeling, or my body just does
Yeah.
it, and I'm more of a witness of my body doing something, where I will look up and immediately it's one eye movement of making eye contact with somebody way yonder, right?
Like-
and it's like there's no reason to look that way. There's no reason. You're making eye contact immediately. It's not like I'm searching around for this feeling. It's you just move and you're there with that person
yeah.
in a moment with them.
And everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, if you say that, everybody's like, oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
I wonder if there's, like, actual scientific studies on that, like, sense, like, that someone's looking at you. Because, like, the human eye, it's designed in a way where, like, you've got the white of your eye, and then you've got
Mhm.
your pupil.
Yeah.
So, like, it's pretty easy for a human to, like, see what another human's looking at because you
Mhm.
can see, like,
The
the
direction
direction
of
that their eye is looking.
Right.
But if you look at other animals,
Contrasty.
they don't really have that. Like, you
Mm.
don't see a lot of other animals with super, like, vivid eyes. A lot of them are
Yeah.
just black
Mhm.
little dots.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's something that's, like, uniquely human.
Mhm. Have you ever watched like the Planet of the Apes movies?
No, actually.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, in all of them, they're supposed to be more human-like. So
Yeah,
they
because
give
they
them
like
white
take over,
eyes.
right?
Yeah, they give them white eyes, and
Oh.
it's really trippy to see, like even in the movie how they depict how the chimps or the apes, whatever they are, they have black eyes, and then it turns into a white eye.
Oh, like changes?
Yeah, it changes.
Oh,
Yeah, and so
that's
also for the
interesting.
rest of forever, for any ape then that has that injected inside of them, whatever, I don't remember what it was, some sort of pathogen.
Yeah. So
It
that makes
changes the
them.
eyes to white, and then so now they feel very human when you're looking at it. It's uncanny,
That's so
because
interesting.
you're looking at like a almost what you would, when I look at a human, I see something different than it when I'm looking in the eyes of an animal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you're looking, I don't know. I'm a firm believer in the soul, and that our livingness is more than just the clump of cells. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of what is that sense then? If I had to determine, or if I had to guess, I don't know, something going on in the spiritual realm. Beats me, dude. Beats me. But like dreams. Then there's a ton of people who experience things that aren't logical. Even though I would argue it's all very logical, but not in a way that we can really comprehend.
Hmm.
Like I don't think God goes against logic. You know what I'm saying? Even in the mystical more parts of it. But kind of depends, I suppose, on what specifically you're talking about.
Like what's yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, well then what's logic, but that seems like another rabbit
Well,
hole.
what's
So
logic? Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Things that make sense. Things that just like should work because they make sense to be
Yeah.
working.
Like it would be not logical if you took two things and you put them together and then they just became nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather, it
Like
should become something.
it should be additive.
Yeah,
Like
you're
if
right.
you
Yeah.
if you put two Lego pieces together and then they just like did
Unless
it.
it's math for
Yeah.
some reason.
That would be like illogical.
Yeah. If 2 + 2 = 5, that's illogical.
A little bit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Cool stuff.
It is cool. It's all fun just because there's like a mystery around it. Even like I feel like I have answers in the sense of it was God, but it's
Yeah.
like that still leaves so much mystery.
Totally.
Like it doesn't really quench that curiosity.
Yeah.
It just leaves more room for excitement, I guess, of trying to figure it all out.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting like intersection between like God and science. Like a lot of the
Got the
time
gaps.
like they say that like humans invented God to explain the things that they couldn't explain.
Right.
And as science is able to explain more, there's less of a need for a God
Mm-hmm.
because we have our own answers.
Yeah.
And
Which science, you know why it blew up in Europe instead of everywhere else? Like the scientific revolution, the Enlightenment, all that.
like during the Renaissance and all that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I mean,
It's because of Christians.
yeah, like a lot of the it was interesting because they were like Christian scientists, but then they were also like often persecuted.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Right.
Because people didn't like the idea
Yeah.
that there could be another answer.
Right. So, well, I wouldn't. Yeah. The whole idea was that they understood God in the sense of he is a logical and patterny God, if you will. Like you can come to understand him and
Yeah.
where he's coming from and what he's all about, right? Therefore, if he created, there should be understanding and purpose behind the creation. So then, logically speaking, they started to study the world and why things do the things they do, and they began to uncover stuff.
Yeah, like if you can better understand your world, you can better understand your God.
Yeah.
In a sense.
It's led by the belief that God has made a logical world.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a world that like you
So-
said, we're put to explore. Like that's something that he's given us, the ability to explore his creation and try to understand it.
Science can explain the how, but never the why.
True. Yeah.
So we can explain how a tree grows, but it doesn't explain why that tree is there in the first place.
No. Yeah.
Or how that tree grows. Or, well, okay. Why is it when a tree is planted, a seed is planted, why is it that a tree grows from it? You know what I'm saying? Like why does water get sucked up through the roots? Where is that force even coming? Like what has written into this fabric that we call reality that allows for such things?
It's just the laws of nature. Like the governing physics and all that. Which yeah, you could argue
But like
that.
science can figure that out. Okay, that's the law of nature.
But where does it
Okay,
come from?
where does it come from?
Yeah, like why does it say that it does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me too to see the intellectuals of America disregard religion as a whole as like a potential answer. It feels short-sighted to me to disregard the idea of a creator for the sake of what even? For the sake of what? I don't know. It kind of confuses me, honestly. Because it feels like a logical step to make.
Yeah.
Okay, there's creation, there's cause and effect, probably a creator, right? As far as I'm concerned, I have my theories on why that is. And that gets into humans and our separation from God because of our sinful nature. Okay, yeah. What comfort is there without God?
I mean, can an atheist be comfortable?
I'm
I mean,
sure they can
maybe
feel
there
good
is a
snuggled up in their
level.
bed.
Maybe there is a level of comfort in, like there being a finite end.
Mm.
Like a movie ends, and that's the end of the movie, and that's kind of nice. Stuff wraps up. When you die, that's it. Stuff wraps up, and that's it. Your book. Maybe some people can find a
I
comfort
can
in
see
that.
that comfort in that, sure. Yeah.
Comfort in conclusion.
Yeah.
Like
That makes
I don't
sense.
think humans don't like not knowing the answer to things.
No, they don't.
So I think I think you could still find comfort as someone who doesn't believe in a God.
Can you find? Yeah, I guess the idea is then if you're wrong, but maybe not. I don't know, because you can definitely find comfort in the sense of being like snuggled up in a blanket.
Yeah, like there's
There's
physical
no such thing as
comforts.
like eternal comfort, but if you don't believe in eternity, then it makes sense why you wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah. Eternity can kind of I feel like in some ways in eternity itself can be kind of scary in a sense. Like think of the actual logistics of eternity.
Well, I guess I believe everybody is eternal.
Yeah. So
It's just where you're going to spend eternity. Under the full wrath of God or in communion with Him and His love. You know what? You know? If anything, lacking existence would be comforting because it would be. You would have no punishment for your injustice or whatever. Whereas, like, in the idea of God being fully just, He would have to punish for our transgressions towards His creation. Right? So, as like somebody, even I am deserving of death, right?
mhm.
As His people are still deserving of death. That's like the whole point of Jesus. Maybe not the whole point. That's a major point of Jesus, right? Where He came down and literally He took that punishment of death for us, so now we may live and be in communion with God, right? Um, so it's like as an atheist, then imagine you are doing all these heinous things in God's morality, right? According to God's morality, you are
Mhm.
wicked, just as non-believers are also. I'm not saying that we aren't. Like as an atheist who doesn't believe in being punished by God,
Yeah.
it's like it doesn't matter. You can have comfort in the sense that you don't believe in it, but it doesn't matter. Once you're up there standing before the Almighty Holy God, um, you're gonna have to give a saying of what you've done, and it doesn't matter how many good deeds you've done. You know, it doesn't matter. For the penalty of sin is death, even if it's one little sin.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually
So that's kind of interesting in a sense if the penalty of sin is death. Isn't death also kind of the reward? Cuz that's the only way you can get to eternal life is through death.
I wouldn't call it a reward.
But isn't that in a sense like the whole point
We're
to
not
have
being
eternal
rewarded.
life with God
It
in
is,
in
but
a
it's not a
heaven?
reward.
What would you say it is then?
For a reward is something that you earn,
Yeah.
which I'm not earning anything.
So it's
That's the whole idea of Christianity is you can't earn it. There's literally no way I could ever get myself into heaven.
Mm.
No possible way, for I am wicked and I suck. That's where Jesus comes in, where he came down and he was literally perfect.
So yeah, it's more of a gift than a reward.
It's a gift.
It's something.
That's exactly
yeah,
what
it's
it
something
is.
that you don't deserve, but
It's a
you
free
get
gift
anyway.
from God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do.
So then, is death a gift?
I wouldn't say death is the gift. Life is the gift. So your view of death is interesting. Well, I mean, it's what humans believe to be death. Where when I say death or life, for me it's more like like death. There is no such thing as ceasing to exist in my mind. When you say death, it's the transition period. Death ultimately then is eternal condemnation, meaning you're going to be punished forever, right? Where life then, where Christ died so then we may live, life meaning forever communion with God, not in his wrath, right? But in his mercy and love.
I don't think this really bounces off what you just said, but this just came to me. I think the thought of burning in a hell forever
it's a fun
is
one.
far scarier than just lights out.
It is, dude. Well, that's
which
where
is interesting.
That's where I was getting to with the comfort.
Yeah. Like,
it's comforting to not believe that.
Yeah.
It's comforting to be able to escape what is just, I guess. Like if you are wicked as I am, again, I'm not trying to like single people out. We all suck. If you are wicked, we describe it as like the light doesn't like the dark because the lightness exposes their darkness kind of thing. The evildoers run away from the light because it exposes their darkness that they know deep down is dark, as it is written, that the Lord has written on all of our hearts his morality, if you will, which basically then like we would probably refrain to that as like the consciousness or the conscience, I think is how it's called, where it's like even as a kid you might like feel a little guilty about something, right?
Yeah, guilty conscience.
Yeah, right. But like the more you do it, the less you feel that. It's something that you can normalize to yourself, I guess.
Sure.
You no longer feel like conviction, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
So the evildoers, knowing deep down, even subconsciously, that they are doing wrong, don't want that to be exposed to them because they enjoy it, because it's fun, it's pleasurable, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of, so then there's a comfort in denying God because then you don't have to change. You can rather stay in your, it's like Christ, he calls us to himself, it's like not to change, but to be changed, I guess. We don't need to change to be his. In fact, we go to him broken, right? And then he changes us through his love, I suppose. Which it's cool. I don't know if that makes sense.
I see it.
Yeah, so like again, then an atheist has comfort in the idea that there is no God. Because then there is no accountability for his actions other than other men.
Yeah.
Right? But when you die, then it's just nothing. So if everything is meaningless, then just chase your desires, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a sense then an atheist would kind of fear God.
Yeah, right, but deny him.
Yeah.
Deny that fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's a cool way of putting it. An atheist would still fear God then, which is why they can't entertain the idea that there is a God, because then they would be liable for their actions.
Whoa.
The same way I am liable, but I am at least trying to throw away my pride and humble myself and say, God, I am not worthy.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the whole idea. But even then, even if I didn't do that, it's like my humbling of myself is not from me. It's through the Holy Spirit, it's through God doing that. Which that can make it seem like it's not my choice. That's a whole other thing.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. That's
we're
not
back
my point.
here.
That's not my point.
Oh boy.
We're making a lot of circles, but it's fun. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting how it all kind of can recirculate itself.
Where it's like, I think everything I'm saying is fairly logical. At least it is to me, but maybe it's because it comes easier to me in the sense of this is where like my brain's at for a long time. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just more familiar with the ideas, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
So it would feel maybe more logical, but maybe I'm not being more logical.
Yeah, I mean, you're rooting your logic in something that you've, like,
Yeah.
you're devoting your life to. So
Yeah.
of course, like, you're gonna,
Isn't that a scary thought?
yeah.
You know what's really cool is Jesus does not call us to a blind faith. I love that. Do you know what that means?
Isn't that like what faith is though?
Mhm.
Like, isn't that the whole essence of it, that it is blind?
Yeah. Kinda.
So what do you mean it's not a blind faith?
It's not a blind faith in the sense of we are not to accept it just because somebody told us to. I have challenged Christianity and the Bible more than anything else in my entire life, and yet it continues to prevail. And I go, dang it, because then now I am accountable for my actions. You know, it's kind of but also like praise God, because wow, is he not awesome? Anyways, yeah, we are called to challenge our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We are called to understand it to the degree that is available, I suppose. You know, a blind faith is like when I grew up, I wasn't allowed to question the Bible because of my dad. He was a pastor. You can't not believe in this.
Yeah.
That's a blind faith.
Okay.
Yeah. So faith is absolutely, it's putting trust in something.
Yeah.
Right. Praise God that he's faithful, meaning that we can put trust in him, and he will follow through, you know, every single time. So it's like through then my relationship with him, because that's the cool part, is because God is a relational being, which that's what I was going to talk about.
Oh, you found it?
Yeah. Okay,
go.
Imagine this. A creator, a God, let's say God, and he didn't create, right?
Mm-hmm.
God would, if he was an impersonable being, then he would never do anything. He would never create.
If he was an impersonal being,
he would never do anything.
Like if he was just almost an idea. Like
if God himself was not a personable being, however you say that,
yeah,
he wouldn't do anything. Therefore,
like
the fact that we exist is evidence that he is a personable being, wanting relationship. Which is kind of a cool idea. And that goes into like how we're the image bearers of him and how we want relationship. Yeah. Anyways. Well, what was I saying before that then? Ah, shoot.
Oh.
I don't know. What do you think about that? Let's just keep going. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Dang it. We were so close.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know. Yeah, the whole idea of comfort is so interesting to me because I ask a lot of believers and I get different responses. I'll ask them, what does God's peace mean to you? Like, what is peace in your life?
It's quiet. It's quiet, like quiet and comfort. Just like no stimulants.
Can you ever have peace outside of, like, let's say you're going through something. I don't know. Your kid just died.
Uh-huh.
Where do you find peace? Is there peace?
I think peace comes with time.
Yeah.
I don't think you can't just instantly have it.
No.
Yeah, like if your kid dies.
Well, there's a difference between peace and grieving.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're like mutually exclusive.
I think you'd find peace through grieving.
I was about to say, yeah.
Which would happen over time.
Well, I think you can have both at the same time.
And I'm sure you could convince yourself that you would have maybe found an artificial peace if you never grieved. Like denial. You could probably find peace in denial too.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways to find peace.
I think a lot of Christians do that actually. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole idea of comfort. I don't remember what I was saying before.
I had some comfort stuff. Yeah, Isn't that interesting? Like, that's like the entire... This is kind of like a purpose. Like, in a sense, the purpose of a human, like, why you got clothes on? They're comfy. Like, humans will always go towards comfort.
Well, why is there shame? It's not just because they're comfy, it's because it's embarrassing. if you're not wearing them.
But there's comfort in not being, like,
there is.
it's
Comfort.
not
You're
comfortable
right.
to be embarrassed.
Right. That's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true.
Everything kind of comes back to like a physical, and probably a mental comfort. Like, I think that's where,
Which is a form of pleasure, I think.
yeah, comfort. Yeah,
Sure.
maximize. There's the philosophical idea of like maximizing pleasure for the least cost.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think in a sense, like if you went back to the idea of purpose, I think for a lot of like, I think for any like being, for any organism, its purpose, if you had to take out everything and you just had to boil it down to like one thing and you took if you took a god out of the picture, I think it would come down to comfort. I think that's like
the purpose.
the purpose is to seek comfort.
Mm.
Because you're trying to seek comfort and pleasure to maximize your survivability.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a comfortable place, you're more likely to probably survive.
That's. I think I misunderstood your question when you first asked me that, because I took it like, what's the purpose of their existence?
Uh-huh.
I think you just meant like, what would like the purpose, like their personal purpose be?
Oh yeah, I think initially that might have been.
Oh,
I did phrase it more like that originally.
my bad.
But this is a little different, I think now.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, like I feel like mankind, like look at us. We're in a house.
Isn't that cool?
With heating and cooling.
Praise God,
like,
dude. Praise God.
Yeah. Like we're in an environment that we can control to maximize our comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what humans have evolved over time to be like, this is what we need. We need this.
Yeah.
Because it's good and it's comfortable. Like something has driven us towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think comfort. But then again, why don't you stay in bed all day? Because that's a pretty comfortable place.
I do, unfortunately.
But I guess you can't, because you got to make money.
Also true.
To sustain yourself, so you can stay comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And we're relational beings, so there's a comfort in that. So that's why you want a family, because there's comfort in relationships.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe that's why. Maybe that's what drives me. Maybe it's comfort.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what I should tell my housemate. Comfort.
For sure.
But at the same time, it's like comfort can also be a bad thing. You get too comfortable, you're never going to live. You're never going to grow.
Yeah.
You're just going to kind of like be just a fat couch potato.
And so, okay. Yeah, that's so interesting.
So like comfort, I read a book called The Comfort Crisis.
Oh.
It's like the idea is we're too comfortable. And because we're too comfortable, we're kind of, we're less happy, because like we're surrounded by so much comfort in our everyday life that we kind of take it for granted. Like people were happier when they had, when you go from being uncomfortable to being comfortable, that's pretty rewarding. That gives you a sense of happiness. But if you're just always in that comfort zone, everything kind of, I think, loses value. And you lose motivation. And I don't think it's like a super mental, like from a mental health standpoint, that's not good for you. And I think that's why there's kind of been an explosion of all these uncomfortable things that people do. Like running's on the rise. People are running, like, I mean, a lot of it came from COVID because people want to get exercise, but more people are running because I think people are seeing that there's value in discomfort. So people are seeking more discomfort because they're starting to realize that yes, comfort's what we're always kind of aiming for, but if you forget what discomfort is like, you can't appreciate comfort.
Okay. So if your purpose is comfort, right?
Yeah.
Morality wise then says you need to do everything you can.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you harm.
Ooh.
To bring yourself more comfort.
Sure.
Right? And according to that being your purpose, why would you ever let anything get in the way of that purpose? Right? So if somebody steals your pillow, you're gonna kill. No, you're probably not gonna kill that person, but you would. I don't know.
But then you also value the comfort in the relationship with that person potentially.
Mm. Mm.
And if you destroy all your relationships.
Okay, so you have your tribe, you have your people. What
Uh-huh.
about other people? Well, let's say you're the town that makes the feathers, and then there's a town over here who puts the feathers in the sheet, and you make a pillow.
Yeah.
Then they ship it all the way around, and you all buy a thing.
Yeah.
Now that town says we're actually not going to sell pillows to you guys anymore.
Okay.
Then according to your purpose, it makes it okay for you to go over there and, I don't know, either rule them, kill them, replace them, or
Someone's got to make it, yeah.
or start making it yourself, I suppose. But if you're making it yourself, you're less comfortable.
Yeah.
So that's a big downgrade. So you're
It
going to go
is
over
a
there and make
downgrade.
sure. But, okay, so why is
But
it
I think
then,
it's temporary.
everything's temporary. What is
Yeah.
not temporary? Comfort's very temporary. So what your purpose
I think
is
it's
temporary.
becoming in a modern age, it's becoming less temporary. Because like
Comfort.
you can get a job where you're at your computer, you can order food to your house. You never have to leave your perfect
I can tell
temperature sensitive.
I can
If you don't want to, it's
No,
it's
let
an
me-
awful
let me-
life.
I was about to
And
say, it's
I'm
not
sure you
comfortable.
can kind of talk about this a little bit more because, I mean that in a sense has been your life.
Comfort is
in a
fleeting.
sense. Okay.
Even when you're in a bed for long enough, it gets uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So your purpose
You can
is
get bed
fleeting.
sores, yeah. Fleeting.
Mm-hmm. Your purpose is forever running away from you.
Yeah. I think maybe the purpose is finding the balance between comfort and discomfort.
Has any human ever? Without God?
Maybe that's just when you die. Like that's if you
I don't know.
found a perfect balance between comfort and discomfort. Well,
It's interesting how
if you never experienced discomfort,
everybody's experienced discomfort.
if you never did, ever.
Mm.
If you never experienced discomfort and you were only ever experiencing comfort, do you think discomfort would be appealing?
No.
Like if you never felt pain in your entire life and then you got your finger pricked by a needle or something and it just happened once and it was like the only stimulant like you had ever experienced that wasn't comfortable.
Yeah.
I think something about that would kind of drive like the curiosity of the mind, like, oh, what was that? I've never experienced that. I want to experience that again.
Well, I mean, look at a kid who's grown up. He's never experienced pain before in his life till he
Touches a
in,
stove, anything. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that kid is like, wow, I need to go hurt myself more.
I guess not. This might have been a too extreme of an example.
I think you're looking at it from a way of, like, let's say like I rub my hand on sandpaper, not to the point of hurting, but to the point of it's a new texture. It's like, ooh, that's kind of cool.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'd probably want to go touch it a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that relates to your purpose being comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was trying to figure out if there might have been a balance between
Okay, yeah,
like,
balance between
finding comfort and discomfort and
I think there is. But I don't think that leads to a purpose. Maybe I'm wrong. In the sense of like struggle brings growth,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty normal human experience. Through adversity, you grow. You
True.
learn through mistakes, right? Mistakes turn into lessons when you learn from them, kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Your brain enlarges, you gain some new wrinkles. So maybe a lot of people probably do seek purpose in knowledge, gaining knowledge, right?
I would say that there's even isn't there a comfort in knowledge? Like
There is.
it feels good to know.
which is really confusing to me then and illogical when an atheist finds comfort in death because they think that they say they know that there'll be nothing, but it's like, you don't know. I don't even know what
No
happens
one
after
knows.
death. I am trusting that I will be in heaven.
Yeah, and that's like why it's a faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trusting that Jesus Christ really did die on the cross and resurrect. As Paul puts it in the New Testament, Christians are to be pitied more than anybody else if Christ did not resurrect. If Christ did not resurrect 3 days later after death, then we have not been forgiven our sins and we are still eternally damned. Or we're just going to cease to exist, and everything we do, like, we are wasting our time here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
As Christians, we are called to self-sacrifice, right? Which is kind of our purpose, I guess. Our purpose is to first love God and then love others as God loves us. That's our purpose, right? Our purpose is literally then to self-sacrifice. So therefore, in a worldly viewpoint, if there is no beyond now, then I am holding myself back for no reason. I am saying I'm going to accept discomfort now and say praise God through it rather than seeking comfort now. Trusting that I will have comfort later, right? I guess that's kind of the whole idea.
Yeah.
Where then there's comfort in that hope. There's a lot of comfort in that hope.
Sure.
Which is what allows for that peace from God, right? Is knowing, or at least believing. Believing is probably different than knowing, I would argue. Believing
Oh yeah.
that I will be with God when I die, right?
I think
There's a lot of comfort in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's even a comfort in humbling myself, knowing that I'm unworthy of it. It's really uncomfortable at first, but after you do it, there's a freedom to it. You're no longer burdened by it. You know what I mean? I feel like most people are burdened by it. The secrets that they'll hold within themselves, knowing that they are wrong in doing them. There's a grossness to it. People want to believe they're good, but I'm pretty sure scripture makes it pretty clear there is no good in anybody unless granted by the Lord. There's literally nobody's good but the Father, meaning any good that humans do is through God. So now you're saying, well, obviously there's people who aren't believers who are good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a difference between being good in man's eyes and good in the Father's eyes, in God's eyes, right? This gets back to like God's morality, I guess. If we're back on that, the idea is, at least the way I understand it to be, let's say somebody who doesn't have God can still love, right? Okay, but why are they loving? Are they loving people because they want that comfort? They want that security? Therefore, then, it's ultimately selfish and in vain. Where God loves us, even though we are completely 100% unworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's full self-sacrificial love in the sense that Jesus came down, God came down and died for us, even though we literally deserve nothing of it. And what does he get from it? Nothing. I guess other than companionship. But then we are called to do the same in the sense of, why do I love somebody? It's because I'm a human, I'm going to mess it up, and I'm probably going to be expecting some sort of gain out of it. But anything that is real, any true love, is coming from God through me in the sense of true self-sacrificial love, of no expectations other than I'm going to burden myself to love this person, to serve them in some way, with truly no expectation of anything back. They could be stepping on my face, and I would still be called to serve them, I guess, in that sense, if that makes sense. Where it's like true self-sacrificial love, not just being willing to die for somebody, but to be willing to die for somebody every single day so you live for them. You're putting your own desires to death so then you may serve them. The same way Jesus did. Same way God has for us. So it's like there is no good in man then. There's good in the sense of, I don't know, some guy can go save a baby from a burning house, but then he's going to be on the news report being like, I saved that baby. And it's like, okay, well, that's not, you're boasting now. You know, it's there's pride in that, right? Where then in man, though, they're like, yeah, dude, you did that. Good job. It's kind of a weird balance there.
That is interesting, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where then the godly way of doing that would have been to do that and then expect no praise. You were not to be you are still unworthy of that praise, I suppose. I guess because you are still wicked.
Hmm.
Yeah. So therefore, you go, you like, let's say I'm that guy, right? What I'm called to do is to not let everybody know I did this cool thing, good thing. Like that's another part of the self-sacrificial love is when you're doing good things for people, you don't go around telling people that you're doing these good things. You are doing things simply for God. God knows, he sees it, and you're doing it for him. I walk away from saving that baby going, praise God, thank you for letting me be here so then I may save this baby, right? You may save this baby through me, whatever it be.
Yeah.
And may the praise be to you, Lord. Thank you. That kind of thing. I think I explained that right. I don't know.
That made sense.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's the only love I have found in this world.
Wow.
Worth it.
That's pretty neat, Joe.
Isn't it cool?
Oh, cheers to that, Joe. Cheers
Amen.
to that. Cheers
Yeah, it's
to
like,
that.
what would you rather get? Like, what other purpose is worthy of your love? Everybody says they want to be a good person. All right, well, who's the best person? I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, Jesus died for you. So he's at least on the running. Yeah, your mom birthed you. Your dad's taking care of you. Okay. They're probably in the running. I don't know.
No. Kind of want to take you back.
Take what back?
Take you back to a another path that we kind of like skirted around.
Okay.
So, I mean, basically for the last 4 years, you've been living a kind of, I'd argue a pretty unique lifestyle, right? So, like we were kind of talking about the whole comfort thing, and I was kind of talking about like, why would you ever leave the comfort of your house if you didn't have to? And then in a sense, you were kind of like, oh, I've kind of experienced that. So what's that been like over the last
4 years?
4 years. Because I mean, I've jumped in like once or twice a year over those 4 years, but 4 years, that's almost 12,000 days. Like you've got to have figured something out in 12,000 plus days about.
Well, I found Jesus.
Yeah.
But so okay.
Like how do you
3 months before high school, I started my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
By when we were graduating at like 60,000 subscribers, it was a big success. I'm going, okay, frick, right?
Yeah.
Right out of high school, I'm living with my mom, not going to college. All my friends move away for college. You were over in Whitworth, but
yeah,
escaped my mind. Whatever.
I mean, it's
so
close yet so far.
yeah. My girlfriend and I broke up, and I just stayed there in my room making YouTube videos for the next 2 years. Even, I don't know. It's like I stopped making YouTube videos consistently. Pretty much right out of high school, actually. Right out of high school, stopped making YouTube videos. It's like I was too comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was paying rent. I was making money, and with very little effort even. I mean, I was putting effort into it, but it wasn't, I wasn't like on an oil rig, like going crazy.
It wasn't like manual labor.
Yeah. It took a toll on me mentally in the sense of just being alone. I feel like I felt loneliness more than anything. But being alone in my room with no goals other than just like I felt like I kind of already made it, but I didn't want to be there. It's like, what is fulfillment? It really taught me a lot in the sense of purpose, I guess, and fulfillment. I had already what a lot of people wanted in the sense of even like fame. I had fans.
Yeah.
Right? I had fans, and they would like be like, where'd you go after a day of not posting? I'm like, I had money straight out of high school. I was making money. I was making decent money for a kid right out of high school, right? I was living with my mom, so I was saving money. I was putting money away into savings. I had my mom. She literally made food for me. She did everything for me. and she kind of enabled me through that to do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Bless her heart. She was serving me in that
Yeah.
self-servitude kind of way. Then there's a whole idea of like love is not always, it doesn't always feel good, like if there was like a father there who loved me, he'd have been like, I'm kicking you out right now. You're not doing anything with your life, right? But it just led me to be in this existential discomfort was far more difficult to handle because I got unused to it. I was so comfortable
Yeah.
that challenges that came my way I would dismiss
Mm.
and ignore because I could just turtle back into my room
Yeah.
and do nothing.
Yeah. Like the
I literally
path of least
deteriorated.
resistance.
Like after high school, I developed a stutter. I developed like this inability to speak my mind because I would literally trip over my own words because I never challenged myself. I literally It's not just your mind is not just. It's not different than a muscle.
Yeah, you gotta work it.
You got to use it to. You got to work it to use it. Yeah. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? And I lost it, dude. Trust me, I lost it.
Yeah.
Over those 2 years of being alone in my room, I didn't challenge myself. I peaked in the sense of like where I was challenging myself in YouTube, and I just stayed on that course.
Yeah.
And then I went from like ambitious idea to the next ambitious idea with 3 a.m. motivation, and I didn't finish any of them. And there was a lot of things that was probably plaguing that discomfort and my comfort. It's like knowing that I wasn't doing everything I should be doing. So comfort in the sense of comfort can be really awesome.
Yeah.
When, especially as a man, if you accomplish everything you set out to do in a day, which I know you're a far more self-disciplined man than I am, but you can sleep soundly at night. But
Yeah.
when you choose to be lazy and ignore something, the next thing you know it's time for bed. It's like, oh shoot, you sit there in bed thinking about how you should have been doing that.
Yeah, you have
Or
some regret.
You can ignore it, but it's still, there's a feeling of it. Yo, what's up, mama?
Again.
What? Yeah, so that discomfort though, man, okay, where was I? I'm living at my mom's, discomfortable. Okay. So I had everything that you could ever want in the sense of comfort.
Yeah.
And yet I still found myself uncomfortable and unfulfilled. There was still something missing.
Yeah.
There was no reason for me to be complaining about anything. I had everything.
Do you think that's where you found like that God was that missing piece, you think?
Yeah.
He was you had the comfort, you had everything, but despite that something was still missing. Is that
Well, okay.
Do you think that's kind of
I don't know if that would be like particularly my story. I think I did find that.
Yeah.
And that became a big part of it. However, initially what it was is I surrounded my life in things that felt more important to me, bigger than me. And one of those was like conspiracy theories, where it's like all these people are evil around me, right? Who are like ruling the world. And what was really interesting is that because of my mom, I continued to go to like youth groups and church camps, and I was still involved in ministries of kinds. Yeah. And so it's like growing up, I still had exposure to the Bible, even though I never really believed it. Because of my dad, I just kind of did it out of respect for my mom and called myself a Christian out of respect for my mom, which definitely wasn't a healthy thing to do, but I did it, so whatever. I don't remember the point of me saying that. I ended up at my mom's. Oh yeah, okay, so conspiracy theories. She basically then looking at this world, I again surrounded myself with all these important ideas, convincing myself that I was seeking a purpose, right? Even if I didn't know I was doing it, to the point where I kind of convinced myself that I needed to like save my family from this, where I was making maps for like my family to flee to the mountains. Whoa. Like I went full existential crisis.
When was this was like going out of high school?
2.5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember Conspiracy Theory Joe, but
it got worse and worse, dude, because it became my purpose. It's what I was seeking fulfillment in.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. And so it brought a lot of fear.
Yeah.
And with my experience then with the Bible, as I was saying, still growing up, what was really interesting was that it I had to sit back at one point after making this map. I was up till 4 a.m. and I'm like, the evil that I'm witnessing in this world perfectly describes or aligns with the biblical evil. And I went, whoa. And so all of a sudden I started to question the Bible for the first time, which is something I've never wanted to do, nor have I been allowed to in the past either, right?
Yeah.
And so I started to question the Bible, and it just kind of, even in my brothers, because of my father, we had to kind of throw away what we thought was truth, right? Because we were raised with a specific kind of truth, and yet clearly it was wrong in the sense of how my father represented it. And so my brothers, we all held the belief that there is one truth. So basically we just held this worldly wisdom of just seeking that. And so then we developed this idea that we all understood of, if you can question it and it holds true, then it's truth. If you can question it and you can poke holes into it, then it's not truth and it should be disregarded. And so we did that same process with the Bible. And as far as I'm concerned, even today, as I question it, it continues to hold true. So I'm like, okay, well, if Satan's real and this Bible continues to, it has continued to, I guess, like the itch gets stronger as I'm seeking that. Then I went to my family's place, and over west, they all have wonderful relationships with God, and I respect all of them in their walk in faith. And I came to them with all of my crazy questions, and they answered all of them plus more.
Whoa. And
they patted my little head on the way out, and I went and gave my life to Christ, right? What was the initial question? Something about, oh yeah, okay, so then living with my mom, though, it's like I eventually found that fulfillment in Christ, but it's because of that discomfort. It's like I had everything I could have ever needed, and yet it wasn't enough. And I feel like celebrities talk about that a lot when they're all like rich and famous. It's like I found that on a smaller scale. Praise God I didn't have to be like one of them to figure that out.
Sure.
But it's not like that's an obscure idea, right? But ultimately, when I found Christ and have still been pursuing him, it's like that has not run dry, nor will it ever. I could talk to my grandpa, who's been a believer his entire life. He's even talked about how it's like he doesn't even remember when he gave his life to Christ. He's just always believed in him. And it's like, wow, how can he, even in recent times through specific struggles, like he had to get a quadruple bypass surgery recently. He was literally hospitalized because of COVID. Literally like 3 years in a row, he was in the hospital all throughout winter, like not at home. And yet he's still the most jolly man I could ever witness. And it's because of his love for Christ. It's so cool, especially hearing him talk about it. He has that comfort in something that is truly a foundation rather than something that is fleeting. Like comfort, right?
That's cool.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question about like where I was at. For like that 2 years, I was just lonely in my room, supposedly having no reason to need anything else, and yet I was missing stuff.
Yeah, so I guess that is interesting because I guess happy. You can, maybe it's an illusion that like comfort is what drives us, but then once you actually achieve that, you realize it's kind of like a false summit. Like there's more to the picture than that. And
I would argue that's exactly what it is.
Look at us.
Look at us, dude. We're figuring stuff out.
That's
dude,
cool.
That's a win.
That's cool.
I don't know. Yeah, what do you think? Because it's not like you, like growing up, it's not like you weren't comfortable. Like neither of us had like a difficult childhood.
Yeah, like dude, I had it so easy.
Yeah.
Man.
And I don't know. I guess you're like questioning it now, purpose, but it's like you still had you still have school to fill that void as a purpose, right?
And now, I mean, I don't
it's
have
like
much longer.
If school's gone, what do you have?
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life? You're just gonna start floundering. Like, okay, now what?
Got to do something.
Well, then a lot of people find it in their job. It's like, okay, then you retire. Okay, then it comes to death, and you're like, well, where did life go?
Yeah.
I think as a young person, it's really easy to not think about death because of how far away it is. What?
Well, I when I go on my runs, dude, I run on some like sketchy roads.
Yeah,
So
dude.
I go on every run just with the thought like, dude, all it takes is one driver. Boop, poof,
Yeah.
gone.
It won't happen until God's like, yeah, you're coming home
Yeah.
now.
And I guess that's something where like you're not supposed to test God, right? Like you don't want to test God.
Well,
because I think that's one of the sins. Like,
you're not supposed
when
to test God, but we do.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 There's right and wrong ways I think to do it.
Mm.
Because I think there was some example of the Bible where some guy, like, probably completely wrong about this, but someone was like, "Oh, I'm gonna jump off a roof and God's gonna save me because God's good."
Oh, that was literally
that
was
Job?
Satan tempting Jesus.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Jesus was like, "Yeah, you can't do that."
Yeah, and Jesus was like, "Don't tempt God."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like kind of the same idea. Like I realize I'm going on these runs on these kind of sketchy roads, and now that it's winter, it's icy, it's dark,
right.
and there's no shoulder, but I still do it, and I have confidence that like those runs aren't going to be my last. But
Yeah, right.
I do think about death almost every time I go on those runs. I'm like, wow.
I mean, even all your camping
There's a lot of like death. I feel like death is
gonna happen.
closer than
It is.
And when you realize how close death can be, I think you have a lot more.
When you feel that mortality.
Yeah, you have a lot more. What's the word? You appreciate things more.
Mm-hmm.
When you are close to death, you appreciate life more.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of a cool tangent. But we figured things out.
Well, sorry. I'll let you finish.
I've had this idea on the back of my mind. This would be a complete like jump into another dimension of talking. But as you were talking about like how you kind of stopped like working your brain like you felt like you didn't have to work your brain, like you weren't.
I stopped growing.
Yeah, you stopped
challenging
growing
myself.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it was. You stopped challenging yourself, and in a sense, yeah, that kind of ties back to the idea of it's when you're in a comfortable position, you're not being challenged by anything.
Yeah.
And with this kind of, I'm curious how AI is gonna intersect and like blur this picture, because think about like what AI is. We're essentially training a model to think like a human with a neural network.
Yeah.
And the entire point of it is to make human life easier.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, man, we're not challenging ourselves when we use stuff like AI, because it's doing it all for us. We're not using our brain muscles.
Yeah, right.
We're not strengthening our brain. Is this how we get taken over by computers and AI? And then, sorry, you're talking about you don't do conspiracies anymore, but I was
do.
just like,
I never said that. Whoa.
I was just like, man,
guy. I am still a huge conspiracy theorist.
Maybe AI is the end, because we get too absorbed in our comfort, and if we don't see that, we're gonna let the AI do too much for us, and then it's gonna get to an extreme point where our brains are just nothing, and we rely on AI for everything we do, and we don't even have to think. And maybe that's how computers take over, and that's how. There's probably a movie that has a plot similar to this.
There's a lot of movies with that plot. Terminator, Matrix.
Yeah.
iRobot.
But I feel like this is an entry point to where
it is, dude.
Like, it's an entry point that I don't think I've seen in a movie.
Well, so I believe in the Bible, right? As we've discussed. But I also believe in the book of Revelation, which is a huge, it's the end times book kind of thing. It's the prophecy of what is yet to come kind of thing. So as far as I'm concerned, reading that, it never talks about robots taking over and killing us all like Terminator does. But it does talk about information being available to like an extreme degree.
Really?
Yes.
Like just like any question you could want the answer to, you just have at your fingertips? Is that because I've never heard of this?
Let's look it up.
When I think of Revelations, I just think of like a
dragons
fiery like chariots and
right.
death angels and
that is a big part of it.
fire and
Here, let's look it up.
But the
'cause I could
information
be
part, that's
wrong.
very interesting. If that
This
is
is
in
an
there.
This is an idea. Before, this is an idea I've had since I was little. So
Uh-huh.
I don't know where this came from. Does Revelation talk about information technology, I guess? Yeah, let's do
Because, I mean, I guess
information availability.
yeah.
They
Because they wouldn't have had any way to possibly explain like technology. Electricity wasn't a thing. It's kind of like going back to
Right.
the Bible being interpreted like metaphorically, because like they did a lot of imagery and all that, because that's just how they describe these things, because it's what their what their lives were made up of. But then that's changed over time.
Right. Well, so Revelation was written by John,
Mm-hmm.
John the Apostle, and he was on the island of Patmos, something like that, I believe, during it, where basically he was giving revelation by God in the sense of like visions or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Where so he would have literally just been tripping balls and like actually seeing these things,
Uh-huh.
and then he had to write it down and what he understood of it.
Yeah. So it's always gonna, someone has to interpret it, and they have to, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Seen anything about information?
No,
That would have been really cool.
there's like stuff, but not like a direct verse. Maybe there is. Bible verses about information age. Let's look at that. Daniel 12:4. But you, Daniel, shut up the worlds and seal the book unto the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, wholly unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power, and for such people turn away. That has nothing to do with information. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the... Okay. Where's the Revelation one? Well, it did say that the information would gain or whatever. What did it say?
Yeah, something about
Knowledge shall
information.
increase.
But did it really specify if that was a good or a bad thing?
I don't think it would say it's a bad thing. It's just something
like knowledge is
that
good.
will happen. Knowledge is good, sure.
Yeah.
I don't think knowledge is inherently evil.
No.
No, I think God made it so then we learn things. I think that's part of his good intention. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Unfortunate. Maybe like so the great dragon was cast out, the serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. This has nothing to do with. Well, sorry, I think.
Yeah, I've never personally read through Revelations. I've only ever like seen the, like, you know, when you have your picture Bible as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and like you're flipping through it, looking at all the cool pictures. I think the most I ever did with Revelations was just seeing like scary stuff. I was like,
Right.
shut that thing.
It is cool. Well, Christians super heavily debate how literal or how symbolic a lot of it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like even like the mark of the beast, you know, how it talks about it'll be like 666 written on people's foreheads and wrists or something like that.
Oh.
Or hands, back in the hands. One of those two. But it's like my older brother Josh, he was telling me this cool idea that when he was telling me, it's like the first idea I heard it, where he was just like, it's actually not supposed to be a literal like writing. You're not gonna see people walking around 666 on their forehead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But rather it's a heart posture of being of the world.
Hmm.
I don't know if being of the world means anything to you, but
I don't think it, because who isn't of the world?
does talk about knowledge, revelation, knowledge. Oh, never mind. All right, I'll put this down. I want to find it, but I don't think I'm going to, which is chill. I'm wrong about most things, so
It would have been a super cool connection.
it would have been.
All
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what were we talking about? We were kind of talking about Dude, like, yeah, AI taking over. And then
Oh
how that
yeah,
would kind of be like, I guess, do you think AI taking over could be a form of like Revelations becoming like, do you think that could be the end of the world?
it may play a role. I wouldn't say it's going to be like the Earth is going to be annihilated and it's just going to be robots living here. Like
Yeah.
that's not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is there's either going to be, depending on who you talk to when it comes to Christians, there's either going to be a rapture or just the second coming, post or pre-trib. But basically, there's all the end times that lead up to something. Then the Antichrist happens, where then there's 7 years in between then and Jesus Christ coming back down with a sword and annihilating everybody, pretty much.
So it's
I think. And then the millennium reign, I want to say, is before the end times, or not before the end times, but rather before the. There's going to be like a lot of years before, when the Antichrist happens and when like Earth is donezoed. It's still going to be a long time.
so the world will be lost at that point. Is that the idea behind that?
Well, so like, let's say you're a rapture person. I think.
So what's a I'm not super.
The rapture is when Christians will be taken up to heaven. It kind of, it describes it as they will be gone in a blink, in a wince of an eye. So it's like, just like a wince of an eye is just when your eyelid is like opening, just that amount of time, right?
Yeah.
So like you blink and they're gone, kind of thing.
So that's people being saved.
Those are believers who have already put their faith in Christ.
Okay, and then
God is sparing them from the tribulations, which is 7
Okay.
years of terror on earth.
Okay, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Go on.
Where then basically within those 7 years, it's not like everybody's just doomed. Like people would still be able to come to Christ in those years, supposedly. My theology on this is very wish-washy.
Okay.
Please don't put too much weight in this. My grandpa's reading a book on it right now, where, yeah. And then there's other people who believe that there is no rapture and that it'll just be Christians along with everybody else within the tribulations, which again, the tribulations is a time period, 7 years where the Antichrist rules, something like that. It's like a big one world government kind of thing. Yeah.
And what that could potentially look like is very much,
I'm sure AI
up
would
for
be
debate.
a big part of that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Revelation is not like this is exactly who's going to be there and how it's going to be.
It's just the idea.
It talks about the Antichrist walking in the temple,
Mm-hmm.
in the temple in Jerusalem or whatever, which is really interesting because that temple is currently destroyed.
Oh.
So we know that the temple needs to be rebuilt before the end times happen.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
There is so much illiteracy and literacy when it comes to reading Revelation that all sorts of different Christians have all sorts of their different ideas. If you are curious about it, I'm not the guy, unfortunately. Even though
I've always
kind of
just swept it under the rug.
I have all of my ideas about it, but half of them are very half-baked.
They're still developing.
Yeah, all of them. They're pretty. I have some pretty trash ideas, but it is fun. I do like when it comes to my own opinion on whether we're in the end times or not. I think people like Elon Musk are issuing in the next era of, for the first time ever in human history, I do believe that what it talks about in Revelation is for the first time ever even feasible, because it does talk about how Christians will be excommunicated from society. Where basically then people theorize what the mark of the beast will be, right? Where it's like, okay, so how do you do that? Because like if you go back to Roman times, the Romans can tell somebody don't sell to this person, but they're just going to go out and farm by themselves. The thing is with now, everybody's so dependent on everybody else around them.
Yeah.
All you have to do is make it so then no more cash flow. If there's no more cash, the government can track every single dollar that's everywhere, right? Because there'd be a record of all of it.
Yeah.
Therefore, then, along with the digital ID, which was kind of preemptively maybe being played around with the idea of during COVID, the idea then is if you on your ID are a Christian, you'd be denied buying stuff because all your money is digital. That kind of thing, right? So then Christians therefore then it would be feasible for all of us to be deemed unworthy to participate in society.
Interesting.
And it makes sense too in the idea of what do Christians believe and why would they be deemed so hateful, right? It's kind of, there's a lot of things when it comes to the eyes of man and the eyes of God that don't align. Like the eyes of man says, seek all your pleasure and do whatever you want, where God says, no, I made you guys with a purpose and in love, and you will truly be happy following what I made you to do, right? Where then, like for a specific example, I guess would be like transgenderism kind of thing, where it's like you are getting surgery or you believe that you are something that you're not, right? And then what we do as man goes, you're finding your true self. We use the word true, right?
Mhm.
Their truth. Where it's like, no, there is an objective truth. If you're born with an XY or XX chromosome, that's it. Like, that's how God made you out of love. He designed you. Says how he knitted us in our mother's womb.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like he did that in love and mercy for you. And then you disgrace it, I guess, in that sense.
So, this is kind of, I guess a tangent with that. Uh, I'm just gonna try to poke a little.
Do it.
Poke some holes.
Poke holes, dude.
In that last part, just because this
Yeah.
is something that I'm in a genetics class right now.
Okay.
And we're talking about molecular genetics, and it is something that we observe. Like, not every human on this planet is born with.
Someone's born with 3, right?
Yeah, XX and XY. You can have, there's quite literally tens of, I don't know if it's quite hundreds, but there's lots of variation in like what chromosomes you can be born with. But the only you always need an X chromosome to be a functioning human. You can have 2 X's, you can have 3 X's, you can have 4 X's, you can have 3 X's and a Y. You can have 2 Y's, 2 X's. There's all these different variations that do exist chromosomally, and that kind of I mean, it's not the majority of people. The majority, it's like a bell curve. Most people are just XX or XY, but it's probably 0.1% of the population that has these different chromosomes that are like 3 X's, like, yeah, they have 3 chromosomes. But like 0.1% of the population, if you look at 8 billion people, that's like 1 million plus people.
Yeah.
So do you think that, I guess you were kind of saying that you have XX and XY, and that's what God gave you. So do you think that God also gave people these different chromosomes?
Well, yeah, that just gets into deformities.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, why is some people born with autism?
Yeah.
And why are some people not? Why are some people born without a leg and some people aren't?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't think God did that to a degree.
Well, then who?
I think he allowed it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's because sin entered the world and we aren't perfect, you know? There's going to be sickness in the world like that. The chromosomes, I don't know. What genitals do they have?
Can have a lot of different effects. Like, you can have male and female parts. You can have, like, you can appear to be a woman 100% from the outside, but then you have, like, what they call undescended testes. So they just have, like, testicles, like, inside of their, like, just floating around in their abdomen.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main example, is like just undescended testicles. And then you're like producing this testosterone. So like you physically do have the male parts inside you as a female, which kind of blurs the line. And that's been something that's been interesting to.
Okay. That does blur the line. I have no idea what to say about that other than just deformities and this world is twisted.
Yeah.
In the sense of, what did God intend for that person? I don't know. I'm not God.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and speak for him. But, well, yeah. The idea of, for the most part, though, let's say we take an XX chromosome and they try and transition, right?
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, as an image bearer of God, it is disgraceful towards God to go against that.
Mm.
That's kind of the whole idea.
So when do you think? So like, I guess if we go to kind of like altering the body. So where's the line drawn? Like, what can you change and not change about yourself? Like, you can cut your hair.
Yeah.
You can.
I think a lot of it
Can
just
you-
comes down to heart posture.
Out of what?
Heart posture
What does that mean?
means like what is the intent behind it?
Well, isn't the like why do you?
Because we are called to like treat our body like a temple kind of thing, which is like, okay, so why do people not work out all the time? A lot of Christians are fat and lazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, well, again, we're not perfect. We all sin. We all suck. Remember?
Uh-huh.
That's why we need Jesus. Yeah.
Hmm.
When it comes to the line to go, it's like some Christians will put it like tattoos. Other Christians say tattoos are fine. I don't know. I don't think it really matters as much as your intent behind it is, Lord, I am unworthy, and I'm just gonna try to make a sense of this world that's confusing, and just I just want to obey you. I think that's as simple as it gets. Is just trying to obey God, because He will make it clear to you, and if He doesn't, then just don't. Or do, and then see how you feel afterwards. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like you could take that a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's as a Christian, it's like you don't have all the answers to everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think I need it.
Sure.
You know, I have enough to go off of.
Oh, this is my mouth.
So
Sorry.
yeah, you're good. You're good. I do it all the time. I have enough to go off of to know God,
Mm-hmm.
and then through that, or rather I know enough to like reach out to Him. But through that now, building a relationship with Him, you build that trust in Him.
Mm-hmm.
So even the things then that you don't know, not that we want to stop challenging it, but there is a basis of comfort in knowing that if you still can't figure it out, you still trust God that ultimately it's good and just, right?
Mm.
Or if it's not good, then ultimately He's just still. So it's like, you know, He will get His way with it. Yeah. So when it comes to like multiple chromosomes, I have no idea. I've heard that before, and I went, "Oh, that's weird."
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I would just have to compare it with just being born with deformities. My mom was sharing with me the other night where a baby was born without an underdeveloped like cleft lip.
Yeah, like when they got the
Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, why did that happen?
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of want to dive into that a little. You'd kind of started explaining that that's the result of like sin.
Mm-hmm.
Like why would God allow that
That's
to happen?
That's a big question.
Yeah, I find that
Why
that
did God
whole
allow
thing
evil?
very interesting. Like, is it evil? Is it evil to have a?
No,
are
I wouldn't say
deformities
that
evil?
baby's like sinful for having a deformity. I don't think there is fault in that.
Yeah.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, that's sin's fault. That's like Satan's fault for tricking Adam and Eve in the garden, kind of thing.
Mm.
Okay, so I can try and explain it the best I can.
Yeah, because I mean, it's.
I've heard it described by many Christians. I go, wow, yeah, that makes so much sense, but I've never myself actually tried to answer it. So let me try.
Okay.
Let me give it my best shot.
All right.
Okay,
Buckle
so
up.
like, why does evil exist? Well, first of all, what is evil? When I was looking this up, and I did a little research on it, basically evil, what I came to the conclusion of to define evil is simply a distortion of God's good intention.
Okay.
Of His design or whatever, His creation, right? Okay, so the only thing that God has ever described as good, quoted God saying it's good in the Bible, is His creation before the fall. Okay, so God and Himself. He says God is good and His creation was good.
Okay.
So this is before the fall, which I'll get to that. So the garden, He made earth, all that jazz, and He's looking down at His creation on the seventh day, which whether that's literal or not, whatever, doesn't matter. as long as the meaning is still there, right? God's looking down at his creation. And he says, "Wow, this is good.
Mm-hmm.
Look what I've made. This is amazing."
Yeah.
And he said it's good because it reflects his own good nature.
Mm-hmm.
So nature, what he's made, reflects him, right? And his good characteristics, and his goodness, and his love, and his mercy, and his compassion, all of that stuff, right? So Adam and Eve were a big thing. They're in the garden chilling. Snake comes along. Satan. Okay, well, why is Satan there, right? So then we go back to before even God created the earth, and there'd be the angels.
Sure.
Okay. So now, why did God make the angels? Okay, well, why did God make anything? Okay, so he made the angels. Yeah. Bear with me.
Okay.
God made the angels. They're doing their thing. Here's the cool thing about God is that he gives us free will, including the angels, supposedly. Kind of.
Yeah.
That's some wild theology right there that I don't know enough about.
Okay.
I'm just kind of repeating things I've heard other Christians say right now.
Mm-hmm.
So angels happen. A third of the angels rebel against God. The argument being, okay, so God made us with free will, yet is still, the way they would put it, is to force them. Like, okay, so if he made us with free will, and if we don't worship him now, he will punish us, right? Which sounds very fair. It's like big fair argument, right? Crazy, right? Crazy way of looking at it. And yet, I guess the opposing view of that would be, well, I made you with a purpose, and if you oppose me, it's not because I'm trying to make you, but rather I'm trying to save you from yourself and your own arrogance. Trust me, you will be far more happy with me, right? Okay. So then Satan rebels. God's like, you guys suck. Pushes them all down onto earth, whatever, this big fight. Down onto earth, then they are pretty much infecting the earth, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where then Satan, Lucifer, whoever it is, I don't think it names Lucifer, it's just Satan, Satan is often described in the Bible, or like rather when you're reading it, you should just take it as like the greater evil. You know, it's just an evil character with a name. Usually just one of the demons, it's an evil spirit, right? Satan. Lucifer is like a specific angel, but fallen angel. But he gets into the garden, slithers in, and it's like, why would God allow that, right? Eve then there's a tree in the garden, which is actually a big argument for free will, where Adam and Eve are in the garden. There's a tree called the tree with the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil, something like that. Where then it's like, okay, so God then in his goodness was like, all right, so I'm going to give you guys the option to obey me, right? Out of his love for them, he gave them the option, right? So Eve then gets tricked by the snake. He's like, God is actually holding you back. You can be like God if you go eat this fruit, right? Eve goes, all right, that sounds cool. Eats it, has Adam eat it. Bam, just like that. Humanity now, the image bearers of God that was deemed good, has now been tainted. And God cannot sin, right? God won't sin, rather. God is pure in that sense. Therefore, then, seeing his image tainted like that, he can no longer be in communion with them.
Okay.
He can't be around them.
Yeah.
So God has to separate himself now, because otherwise it'll taint him, I guess, kind of thing.
So I think I see where this connection is then coming. So because of the original sin, and since then we're separated in a sense from God.
We're separate.
Then I guess you can make the argument that these things like mutations and stuff that happen, like if the original sin wouldn't have occurred, maybe God would prevent things like mutations from happening. But since we've kind of separated ourselves, then is that kind of where the connection ends up coming from?
Pretty much. I would have things to say about that, but yeah. Where then, so the sin happens. Then basically what happened is God had to separate himself from his good creation, like you're saying. Like literally separate himself. Now man is left to their own devices. Outside of the garden, and that leads up to the flood, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is because of God and his mercy, you know, he didn't just like annihilate them immediately and
Yeah.
punish them immediately because he has mercy for us.
Yeah.
How it says like God makes the sun rise on the unrighteous and the righteous. It's a form of mercy. It's so cool. You know, how he shares his love even with those people who will ultimately still be condemned in the end. Anyways, sin enters the world, which then there's a lot of like theology when it comes to the Nephilim and all sorts of crazy stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Nephilim, the giants of old kind of thing.
No.
There's a lot before the flood, theologically speaking, is far different than the world now. Which gets crazy, especially for somebody who's like, I'm a big science guy.
Yeah.
It's like,
because there's dinosaurs. Isn't there something along the lines of dinosaurs in the Bible at one point?
well, I believe the dinosaurs are
Is that where that ties in that?
dinosaurs are a new word. Dinosaurs, every culture ever since up until like the 1800s, when some American guy was like, we found a dinosaur.
Yeah,
that's a new coined term.
Sure.
Before then, they were all called dragons.
Okay, that would make sense.
So the Bible does refer to dragons, I believe, and that usually, according to theologians, all points towards dinosaurs.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, you know, I have my ideas of what those are, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the fall happens. God separates himself from us, and which means that we are now condemned to death. Now, when God said, now that you've eaten of that fruit, or if you do eat of that fruit, you will surely die. That's what he says, something like that. Where then basically, you know what that means is now that you have eaten of that fruit, you have disobeyed, you have sinned against God, meaning now you are separate of him. Therefore, now death has entered the world. Death now enters the world, so now we get hungry. Now animals now are eating each other.
Yeah.
We need to fight to survive. It's a big thing. Sin enters the world. Selfishness runs rampant, yada, yada. And the way it's kind of like why are deformities a thing? Because this world is impure now. Especially now, we are so many years of tainting of the genetics. Like Adam and Eve would have been pure.
Yeah.
And their bodies would have been like the first. They would have been the first, you know? Through years and years of wear and tear, things are going to break down.
Yeah.
At least that's kind of the way I, accept it in my head. Now, why does like God continue to allow it? As far as I'm concerned, we have nothing but a need to be grateful for his allowance of evil to continue in this world. Here's why. And then I'll get into that. Okay. So the fact that we are evil, even his people are just as wicked, right? We are just as unworthy as the next guy for choosing him or whatever, right? Or being called his. It's like being an almighty God that is truly holy, meaning holy means separate, truly being good in every single facet and never have sinned, then therefore, because we are then deserving of death, even though we deserve it, he's holding back and saying, no, I'm going to let you live. Right? That's an extreme act of mercy and love. Yeah, it's super cool. Why does God allow evil then in the first place? Why would he allow Satan to get into the garden and taint humanity, his image, right? Because he absolutely allowed it to happen. It's not like he didn't know it was going to happen. There's definitely a sense of like free will aspect of it.
Yeah.
But then there's also the aspect of, well, was Adam and Eve's love for him real without free will, right? If there's no evil, then how can you ever understand or be gracious for him? It's like this world we were talking about earlier, the design of it. It's God is an infinite God. He can design this reality however he wanted. Yet he chose this way. He chose this way where trees grow up to the sky, where you exist, where I exist, and you're sipping water because you're thirsty. It's like, what does thirsty even mean? He had to make it a reality where you can even thirst. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, so out of all the infinite realities with that an infinite creative God can make, why did he choose this one? It's because this one perfectly, or at least we can trust that this was the purest form to show his love. So if there is no evil then, and he was just like, all right, you're all in heaven with me already.
Yeah.
Then it's like, why would I love him?
You can't. Yeah. If you don't have no basis to.
Or at least I would have no basis of gratitude.
Yeah.
He'd be able to tell me, I have saved you from a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but it would mean nothing to me.
Hmm.
We're now going through the struggle of life, of sin,
Yeah.
and then seeing what he's done for me, I, through my own volition, am like, wow, God, you are so good. Wow. Look at what you've done for me, and now I'm able to have this gratitude towards him and be excited to bear in that relationship with him. It's like, what is a relationship if it's not messy?
Some might argue a really good relationship.
Well, yeah, or a fake one.
Yeah. Could be some.
If there's no struggle, why would I ever have to choose him? I wouldn't. I would never need him. And I want to need him. It's way cooler, I guess. He didn't make us to be gods of our own.
Yeah.
Nor am I worthy of being such.
Hmm.
Maybe if he made me to be worthy, but he made me to be me. Yeah. I don't know if that answers the question. Answers it the best way I can.
Yeah,
Which was a lot. There was a lot to take in there.
Yeah, it definitely got some good clarification in there. At first I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
This sounds like we're trying to say that anything that skews from like God's initial image is like the result of sin in the world, which was kind of what you were saying, but
yeah,
it stems from that initial sin, and it's not like that is the direct result of everyday people's sins. Like you sinned, now your kid has like a cleft lip or whatever. That's so that's I got the clarification in that. And that was a cool connection, like the explanation there with like why is there evil.
Yeah, I hope that
made sense. Yeah, I like that.
God had to allow it.
Yeah.
He doesn't make evil happen. He doesn't force us to sin. He doesn't. He doesn't make us sin. He doesn't sin. But he does allow it to happen, I believe, to have a relationship with us. It's like if your father, when you were a kid, if your father protected you from everything, kept you inside, you had because he was so afraid of letting you get hurt.
Yeah.
What would happen then when you finally do go outside? When he finally does give you life, you're going to be so overwhelmed, you're not going to be able to handle it.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the loving thing to do? It's to let your kid get hurt.
Yeah.
And then be there for him and help him through it. He is our father. I don't know. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I like that.
Yeah. Now, the problem is not everybody's going to come to Christ, but, he is offering himself to them.
Yeah.
And because of their wickedness, there you go, dude. That's too bad.
It's too bad.
But here's the thing. It's like, is God unloving then if he's unjust?
Is God unloving if he's unjust?
Or no. Is God unloving if he condemns people? Let's say that. That was I said the wrong thing first.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think like if you discipline your kid, it doesn't mean you don't love them.
Yeah. Right.
Like,
except this is like eternal. This is like a spanking, but forever.
I mean, this is kind of gonna stem into another whole section, but what if you were never given the opportunity to know God? Could you be condemned? Like if you're in a remote portion of the world where like you never saw a Bible, you never heard, you don't even know what the word God is.
Yeah, at least in English language, yeah.
Yeah.
They'd probably have a word for it.
But like how do they like if the Bible never reached them?
Right, if you're locked in a basement all your life and you've never heard the name Jesus.
Cuz like it's one thing if you like if you're being punished for something that like if you're being condemned for maybe like turning down the word of God.
Right.
I feel like that seems pretty fair, right?
Yeah.
Because that's like, hey, I told you don't grab cookies from the cookie jar. and now I'm gonna like slap you on the wrist or whatever because you disobeyed like what I had said. But then what if you were never told like that you couldn't, you didn't, no one even said anything about the cookie jar. You just saw it and you took something out of it. Is it fair to be punished for that?
Right.
And I think in that way, can God condemn you if you never even know who God was?
So
Where do they fit?
there's a few ways that Christians try and rationalize this. There's many ideas. Some of it pertains to like predestination. How some Christians will kind of explain it away. Others will say how, or just, say I don't know and rely on the just nature and the merciful nature that is of God. If you have never heard of him, he would obviously know that, and he would see, I don't know, there would be some sort of, I can trust ultimately that God's judgment on that would be just. So therefore I don't need to worry about it, right? Where then there's another idea of the morality being written on everybody's hearts gives them no excuse for sinning still. So then therefore they would still be liable of their actions. However, there's examples of like Native Americans who would pray to an unknown God who created all things. Their God they didn't know, but he created all things.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I don't know. There's a few options there. Maybe they're all right, maybe they're all wrong, but I don't know. I don't think the Bible really tackles that. Another thing I know is that God and Jesus have not stopped working since Christ died and resurrected. As far as I'm concerned, they are still down here along with us, spreading the gospel, not in a way of like Jesus is walking around as a man.
Yeah.
But it's like there's I've heard testimonies of people in like the Middle East, let's say, who are like lifelong Muslims, and then they have some dream where like Jesus literally came to them and was like, "All right, dude, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh man, I love Jesus now." And it's like how Jesus can come to people even with no contact, like that Muslim man, and reveal that truth to him the same way Jesus would still be able to do that for somebody else. So it's like, why does Jesus not do that for everybody? That gets into like the predestination stuff, which predestination does not immediately mean no free will. There's a lot to that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if that answers the question. It's very unsatisfying. I think so.
Yeah.
But there's some routes you can take.
Yeah.
Of like whatever you find comfortable, I guess. But I wouldn't put like truth into it. Because I think the only answer is really I don't know. God is ultimately just, and I can trust that. That's it. Not only that, but it puts a conviction of like, wow, I need to go share Jesus with these people. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. It's not something that I don't typically take these conversations because I think in my own faith I like it to be very basic. I don't like diving out into the bushes too much.
Yeah, then you'd just be God's just, whatever.
Yeah. That's kind of where I typically go in my everyday life, but it's fun to have someone like you who's looked into like a lot of these things, looking for some more.
I've just scratched the surface, bro.
Yeah.
There's so much. I've rubbed my eyes over it when I was curious, and I went, all right, well, that kind of makes sense, I guess. And then I've moved on. Moved on to the next question. Give me a call in 20 years. I'll be able to be like, yeah, this is what it says in the Bible.
Yeah, where do you see yourself in 20 years?
20 years, dude?
Yeah.
I don't know.
40 years old, what have you done?
Hopefully the Lord's will.
Whatever, no ideas yet on what that might be?
Well, I might end up going into ministry to some capacity, maybe not. I'm assuming I would continue to do the podcast. At least I'm like 4 months into this, and I am just as excited about it as I was when I started. There is no... It's like I can get tired of World Box, a video game, but I can't get tired of people.
People are unique. People are way too cool.
Aren't they cool?
Like the fact that everyone's different.
People.
Like everybody just has...
It's so cool.
Think about... We're like what, 21, 22?
Yeah.
That's 365 times 21 times 22 times
Isn't it cool?
times all those hours in a day. Think about like the number of experiences that everyone has that creates them into a unique person, and the fact that like through talking to people you can try to like understand and take something away from them
Yeah.
is just way too cool.
Isn't that cool, dude?
Like people are sick.
You mind moving the mic a little bit closer?
Yeah, sorry, I was getting a little too comfy, you know?
No, yeah, you can stay comfy. Just move the mic closer.
I got you.
That's a win. That's a
There
win.
we go. There we go. But yeah.
No, yeah, but like every single, imagine you take one point in time,
Yeah.
and 100 years later, every single human has now been replaced.
Mm-hmm.
There's 8 billion people on Earth. Every 100 years, it's
Yeah.
replaced by 8 billion more people.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Like if you're just thinking about that from like I like data, right?
Yeah.
I kind of can appreciate specs, like computer specs. Like just trying to comprehend the amount of data that like mankind has. Like each person has a memory filled with all these little things, and you build that memory over time. And thinking about how many people have had memories and how much, like, I wonder if you could quantify how many like terabytes of data, like,
Or in people's minds.
yeah, like the ideas, like, what if you could try to quantify that?
Yeah.
That seems super interesting to me, like trying to
Wouldn't that
quantify.
be cool?
Yeah, the human.
I agree.
Human
I've thought about like asking God that stuff when I'm up there, but I don't think
He'd just
I
be
don't
like,
think I'll
"That's
care.
stupid. Like,
Yeah.
why would you ever
Yeah.
want to like know that?"
he'd
Like,
probably tell me, but I don't think I question how much I'll actually like. I guess that gets into what is heaven gonna be like, you know? I mean, I have my ideas.
yeah, like if everybody's up there, like that's a lot of. Well, not everybody,
Well,
but
that's
like
the thing.
if people are up there and it's been happening for
Well, yeah.
for however many thousands.
However old Earth is, whether it be billions or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the whole old Earth versus new Earth thing is really interesting. Because we don't know how long Adam and Eve were in the garden. I don't believe we came from monkeys, but evolution could be real. I don't know.
Oh,
Shoot.
I was gonna toss this in.
Okay.
So, kind of stepping back a little bit, back to, so I was kind of thinking about this from like the genetics standpoint. So Adam and Eve, they commit this first sin, and then they're separated from God, and from that point, if Adam and Eve were created in God's image, at that point they were the closest to God.
Yes.
So in that sense,
yeah.
are we evolving further away from God's image? Because evolution is happening in humans. Like over the last 100 years, there have been definitive changes in like human physiology. Like we're a lot taller these days. And that's just like through evolution, genetics. So like
I thought that was like food.
I think there's a lot of like variables in it, but I mean every day with every generation of people, we're selecting traits, and the human body is changing and slowly evolving. So would you say that every generation moves further away from God's image?
Here's the thing.
Are we evolving backwards?
You even just said it. We are selecting traits. We are selecting traits that are already there, that are even in our DNA to begin with, that we can turn on and off.
Yeah, I guess if they all
it's like
stem
that
from the
DNA
same
had to
thing.
be written at some point.
Yeah.
That has to come from something that designed that DNA. So then we are capable of that adaptation.
But then change comes through random mutations.
Okay.
So like if you look at like if we're talking about evolution and we're looking at like Darwin evolution, you're looking at like the finches and the Galapagos Islands. They are all the same species, but they all have different beaks. And those beaks, they couldn't make those beaks for themselves. They didn't come from any like previous generations. Like they weren't inherited from the initial bird species. They split as the result of these random mutations that resulted in different like beak shapes. And I guess the mutations would be something, if we're looking like at humans, if there was any mutations in the human genotype, that would be something that wouldn't have been initially present when Adam and Eve were first created. And I guess you could make the argument that maybe God is intentionally making those switches, but then why would he if it was already perfect at the start?
I think I would argue that there's never been a change in DNA. I think I've heard that from somewhere, where it's like the DNA you have is what allows changes to happen. Because you need the blueprints to change. If you don't have the blueprint, there's not going to be change.
Yeah, I mean you have single codons. Like you've got your like DNA, you have your base pairs, and like they give them letters like A, T, C, G, whatever, and they pair with each other. And the mutations are like the literal codons switching. Like you have your DNA codon, which has like your nucleic like it's built up of the amino acids. So it's a physical thing that changes. The pieces are all there, but it's not like I don't think you could say that we have the blueprint and we just kind of switch the blueprint. The blueprint itself changes over time with the mutations. And I don't think I find it interesting just the idea that like if evolution's a real thing and we started from what was supposed to be God's image, we have to have drifted from that.
So I personally do not believe in evolution.
Okay.
I will not say that that's like true or not. Like I said, like maybe it is real, you know? I don't know how old the earth is kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it was though, I'm assuming that we would be separate of it to some capacity if I had to guess. My take on it is more every single animal has already been made purposefully by God, and earth has had its animals, and it's, you know, when one goes extinct, that's too bad kind of thing. The same way we didn't come from monkeys, we have been humans, and monkeys are monkeys, right? Where it's like I believe in adaptation. I think it's more of a de-evolution than anything, where we'd probably be losing more. Like any mutation that could happen, I guess my current understanding is that it's already in the DNA code to have made that switch, like one turned on and one turned off kind of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the potential for mutations is like
the finch
within
idea,
the DNA.
The finch idea is interesting because like they're all still finches.
Yeah,
it's like
they're all the same thing.
They all grew a different beak size, but that could just be within their DNA. Like if you went and searched the DNA of the other finches, they probably have DNA that would be able to mutate into the other beak size.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess
I don't know.
I guess you could maybe potentially make an argument that maybe God designed DNA in a way that I mean, some mutations are awful. Like some mutations just kill. Like,
look at land.
You have no development.
Look at the rest of Earth and how it slowly changes.
Yeah.
It's like God made a perfect design that has consistent change. Okay, so why would we then, as Christians or as atheists, limit that to only land and not animals? Right? I'm assuming animals would be able to do the same. Now with humans, though, I would be more careful, but I don't know why would I be, I guess.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know. It feels a little more icky to me, but I don't know why it does.
Yeah, that whole intersection is interesting with, like, because you can justify evolution of all these animals and stuff because that's just cool. That's the mechanism that God made, and God made the mechanism of evolution and natural selection, and that's cool. Yeah. But then when you look at humans, because if they started from like being made in God's image with two individuals, where that intersects with the rest is really interesting, because like how would that intersect with, if you went with the idea that humans evolved from apes? Would you go with the idea that God, like, at the point that Adam and Eve, this is interesting.
I'm confused on your question.
I don't even have a question. I'm just spitballing.
Okay, cool.
I'm just talking out loud. I'm just thinking out loud.
The idea that God's image can't be tainted is obviously a flawed image in
Yeah.
the sense that we've already been tainted
Yeah.
by sin. So it's like, are we still we are image bearers, but then we're not like perfectly we are not reflecting God
Yeah.
anymore. It's not how that works. So it's like any mutation that we do have, it's not like it's a ruining that of like what we had.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we already lost that.
Yeah.
Like we are image bearers in the sense that we reflect a muddied puddle
Yeah.
of what God was.
Yeah.
Where Adam and Eve before the fall would have been a clear puddle reflecting it perfectly, like a mirror.
Yeah.
Right? We're a muddied puddle.
Yeah. And then I guess every generation it gets more and more muddy potentially.
Right.
Which is interesting. Like you know the quote, like every day like we stray further from God. It's kind of funny. Like I guess if you were to take this in a really literal sense, every day we maybe technically do go further and further from that initial image of God.
Yeah, right.
That we started with. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
But like, you know, Christ came down 2,000 years ago, and he would have been fully man. So I don't know, because in the sense of his body would still die in the sense that he did die.
yeah.
So there would have been that still like aging process, if you will, and that deterioration of a limb. Like he probably could have stubbed his toe and went, ouch, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. They didn't see him and went, you're not like us
Mm-hmm.
in the same way like humans are. He came
Yeah.
down as fully human, and yet he was the same as us. So it's like, have humans changed that much from like 2,000 years ago to now?
Yeah. I mean, obviously not a ton.
Yeah.
2,000 years looking at like relative like timeline. If you're looking at
If you're
the
looking
assumption that the
yeah.
Earth is like a couple billion years old,
Right.
it's nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's nothing 2,000 years is quite literally nothing from the scientific perspective.
yeah, and then I believe Christians debate whether it's like 6,000 years old of like human history or like 12,000 years.
Yeah, but
like
then you've got the Chinese, dude.
then the Chinese.
The Chinese literally have like I was talking with my buddy who's a history major about this the other day. It's
They get a lot.
the Chinese or maybe the Japanese, somewhere in Asia, they were like way ahead of their time. So you had these like white travelers that came over from
Ayo, represent.
you had you had these
travelers.
white travelers come over from like Europe, right?
Mm.
And this is like during the time of like the Renaissance, and like religion is like at its
Okay,
peak.
yeah.
Everybody's like the year's 2,000 years old
Mhm.
based on like the Bible and all of this evidence. And you had these
Right.
crusaders or whatever. I don't know what the official term for them was, but they came over to Asia and they started like invading and raiding these places.
That's a win.
And then they started looking at like documents and talking with these people, and they were trying to like spread religion, and they were like, the earth is only 2,000 years old or whatever. But then they like whip out these parliaments because like these people in Asia were really good record keepers. Like
Right.
they had written
Yeah.
records of things before anyone else had written records.
Mhm.
So they had physical written records that went back like tens of thousands of years, and it just like completely messed up like these people who came from Europe were just like
Yeah.
they just didn't even know what to think of that, because it just completely changed their worldview, because they didn't even think that was possible.
So the Bible, Adam and Eve get out of the garden, then they have some kids, and I believe it's like Seth, or well, then there's Cain and Abel and Seth, I think. When Cain kills Abel, they send Cain out, and they're like, "You're gone, dude. Sorry, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And they send him to the cities, and that makes theologians go, "What cities?"
Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories, whether it be like the Nephilim or the fallen angels, right?
Mhm.
Cain would have been with the fallen angels then, or like, were there other people? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't go and it doesn't touch on that. There's no detail in that.
Yeah.
There's
Who knows?
I don't know. Who knows, dude?
Yeah.
All I know is like, as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's a really fun thought.
It's
Such a fun thought.
it's really interesting.
It is, dude. I need to go pee really bad.
Dude, same.
You okay?
You want to cross some streams?
I didn't realize we were on 3 hours.
Dude,
That's insane.
I didn't either.
Okay.
I was just like taking a pee and I was like,
I thought we
oh,
were an
some
hour and a
text.
half, like max.
Yeah, we've been
cooking.
This has been interesting.
Yeah,
And
so I
this
didn't
is
mean
stuff
to,
that we can just it never ends. There's always questions.
Yeah, so I didn't mean to take up the whole time with God.
It's
it's
cool.
my favorite thing to talk about. All right,
Yeah, I mean, it's always.
this is Alex Peters, everybody. Yeah, I'd love to hang out further because we haven't seen each other for so long.
Yeah.
I feel like we just scratched the surface. We've been talking about like things that don't, like they're less personal to us.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's very personal to me,
Yeah.
but it's not.
Yeah.
I want to hear about your personal life.
Totally.
Let's.
Well,
This is Alex Peters, everybody. Any final words?
no, not really.
We went over 3 hours unknowingly. So that's cool. No final words, eh? Nothing for the people.
I don't really have much for the people.
What would you
Much
have
else.
to say to the people?
What would I
Let's
have
say
to
you're
to
like a
people?
great politician and you're like dying in your deathbed, and you had to say something, and everybody's like so eager to hear what you have to say. Maybe that's too much pressure.
I don't think I'd say anything. I'd just be like, no. No, this is what I'd say. I'd say, you're never gonna believe this.
Then
And
critics.
that's it. Let's just and nothing.
All right, cut.
What's up, guys?
Subscribe. Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you really enjoyed. I know we had a fun time making it. Please, if you really want to, support us on Patreon.
We need money. You guys can find us on all the podcast platforms, hopefully, by this point.
You will.
You will.
You will.
So Spotify, Apple,
All of them.
you know, I guess YouTube, but not really.
And YouTube.
And YouTube. So find us there. Enjoy it. And if you don't, I will find you.
He found me.
Yeah.
Un-
Amen.
Save me.
All right.
I think that's kind of it.
Shit. Okay.
All right. Off to Denny's.
That's a damn good. Yeah.
Hi, Alex. Okay.
Hey, Joe.
This is Alex Peters, everybody. We've done one episode with him before, but it got voided because I messed up in some OBS settings in my recording software, which meant that it got thrown away because it was forever useless. No audio was recorded at all.
A true bummer.
A true bummer. It was a good one. I remember I walked away from that episode being like, wow, I'm making money. And then I have yet to make money. So, hi, Alex. It's been a little
Hey,
bit.
Joe. It's been.
I hear that we're
It's
going to
been
go
a
to
couple months.
Stanley again.
Dude, are you actually gonna go?
Yeah, I might as well.
Because you were like no, but then you were like,
Well, yeah, but then Blake was like, but everybody's going. And I'm like, you're right.
is Carson gonna go? Is it?
We can see.
We got Blake. We got.
He said Braden's not going to go, but everybody else will.
So that's 5. Dude, this is gonna be the biggest hot spring trip yet.
Problem is I'm
'Cause-
so not in shape right now.
You didn't go last year, did you?
I don't think so. I
Have
went the
you
year
made it to the hot
before.
springs?
It wasn't last year that I almost died, right? Or
We-
thought I was going to die. I think it was the year before.
We've done this a lot. Like we've done it.
Maybe it was
I think
last year.
3 or 4 years in a row. And
Fairly certain you guys brought Harrison one time that where I wasn't there.
so I think that was last year because
That would've
Harrison
been
was
last
there
year.
last year, and then the
Mhm.
year before that was
Oh, I forgot there's noise. There's going to be ads.
Sick.
I may have screwed us.
for longer than others. Okay.
Oh, it's on. I thought the microphones were turned off.
This dude just had a heart attack.
Oh, it's working. Okay.
Oh man.
I have no recollection of turning that back on. Okay, sorry. I figured that was worth emergency of stopping what you were saying.
Okay, yeah.
Wow, my heart. Okay. Sorry, dude.
Dum-dum.
I was like, not Alex. No,
Not again.
not again.
Oh, infrared.
infrared.
Ultraviolet and infrared.
Bugs.
Yeah.
I can get you more water.
Finish off this sip.
You're going to let it sit? Or
Oh, I was just taking the last sip.
Oh,
Sip of water.
Okay. I was like, well, because do you want me to? I can